good morning, and welcome to Women in Construction. As a magazine, Construction Week has been around for 12 years, and what we look forward to is benefiting society through our stories, whether it be infrastructure or real estate. ITB Construction Week comes from the ITB India stable, and which is as an organization is a Dubai-run company, which is 84 magazines. Today, here we are going to talk about women in construction. Empowering women is a term we hear quite often, but left on their own, women are empowered enough. When there are only two sexes, it is not necessary to run each other down. One can live in perfect harmony and yet achieve the greatness that each one is called for. Sometimes I wonder why we have an International Women's Day, but the International Women's Day 2022 campaign theme is Break the Bias. Imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Construction Week, for the first time, is organizing a Women in Construction virtual summit. For long, a male-dominated sector, women are now marching in and making waves. However, this is not only about women who are achievers or well-heeled. We are also talking with women who toil and struggle in the rural and urban areas, and whose voices are yet to be heard. It may take a while, but I know we'll soon be there. Thank you for hearing me out. We will now move on to the event and start with a small presentation by Palash Agnihotri. Palash is the director of MCT India Infotech. He has a BTech degree from Pune University and 25 years of industry experience. Has worked at Larsen & Toubro India and Webel, a government of West Bengal PSU, before starting MCT India. He has been in several responsibilities in the organization, including system implementation, hardware professional, and training. These days, he takes care of business development, management, and resource planning. Over to you, Palash.
My name is Palash Agnihotri, and I'm representing MCT India. Let me start with acknowledging all you awesome ladies and wonderful on this special day, Women's Day. Honestly, when I got this opportunity of sharing the platform, some of the prominent names in the industry, I was a bit nervous because I had to make a special mark, because all of you had made a special mark and reached special heights in your lives. You are an inspiration to many ladies who had aspired to be like you. So I acknowledge you all from my bottom of my heart. Happy Women's Day. So something about MCT. MCT, we started our journey in year 2000. And as an outsourcing company and developing enterprise asset management product. At that time, India was on a learning curve of EAM, and our work was primarily focused towards global enterprise. MCT India has helped its clients to transform their businesses using technologically solution, latest, and coupled with EAM. Today, we are gold business partners for IBM Maximo, with 80 plus satisfied customers worldwide and 20 plus years of experience. Today, we are catering some of the big names in the industry like Tata, Container Corporation of India, Integrate, All Cargo, and so on. So some of you must be inquisitive that what is an EAM? EAM is a powerful tool. By definition, if you go, EAM is a very powerful tool that enables the enterprise to manage all their critical assets on a single platform. Like your organization has some critical assets which are backbone to your company, and you would like those assets to give you maximum returns on investment by using them properly and effectively throughout their full lifespan. In the following slides, I'll share some of our knowledge and give you few insights and suggest ways and means of resolving some of the pain points of today's industry. In today's world, data and information have become a powerful tool. Information which is reliable, effective, useful is the information. When data put in right context, it is the information which is again a formidable tool. If we talk about information related to a maintenance of assets, where do organizations get and keep their information? It's usually in Excel sheets, notebooks, files, and mostly in technician's brain. What an enterprise needs is a bird's eye view of its full organization, as well as root cause of every issue related to maintenance, so that organization can maximize the full value of their capital investment done on an asset throughout its life cycle. It's always about getting to the problem first before that problem gets to you. Old ways of managing an asset is getting preventive maintenance or getting the asset repaired when it's breakdown. These are old types and called reactive or preventive maintenance. Nowadays, assets are becoming more and more connected that gives you data that can process and get you maximum life cycle of an asset, in turn better ROI. Welcome to the world of IoT, Internet of Things, where we have smart bridges, smart cities, smart buildings, and where every civil structure can accomplish optimum life cycle in four simple steps: manage, monitor, health assessment, and predictability. Step one, manage. Define complex asset structure and hierarchy and type of failure. Monitor. Monitoring an asset through sensors and getting a real-time picture of an asset. Health assessment of an asset. Health assessment so that the work based on the assessment can be prioritized based on the health of the asset or what we can see. Predictability. Predictability is getting impending issues first, getting prioritized before the things goes worse. So Internet of Things are about connectedness of things. In the world where IoT is everything is in the world of IoT where everything is linked to everything else. Connectedness allows us to link data and actions which were previously different in discrete activities. Now we can optimize the way things are done and imagine and implemented in a completely new working way. Our solution aims to bring right data and insights to the experts so that they can make an informed decision to improve the maintenance and efficiency and overall safety of the asset so that it ultimately extends the life cycle of the structure they are responsible for. Here is a case study, a very special and unique case study where one solution changed the whole scenario of maintenance. Sund and Belt Holding is an infra company based out of Denmark. It owns and operates some of the world's largest infrastructures, including Great Belt Fixed Link, which is an 18-kilometer bridge and tunnel combination, the largest construction project in Danish history. The company knew that one of the greatest challenges was slow and manual process of conducting regular maintenance and inspection. Imagine bridge company has to hire a mountaineer to scale the sides of the bridges and take photograph for examination. The inspection take months and the process was repeated frequently because of the harsh and acidic, because the bridge stands on the ocean and it has harsh and acidic environment. The company also needs to inspect all the tunnels and infrastructure with over 1.1 million cubic meters of concrete that has to be inspected regularly. Doing manual was a heavy workload and was very expensive. So here comes a magic bullet, combination of Maximo, IoT, drones, and AI, artificial intelligence. Now the information is being captured by IoT sensors and drones, and those photographs are taken by drones are compared with the 3D model kept in the system. Here we get a condition-based monitoring system for the maintenance of the bridge, which is proactive, fast, cost-effective, and most important, enables the enterprise to get to the problem first before they get to them. The visual inspection of 1.1 million cubic meter of concrete, which was being done in years, comes down to days. Just imagine the cost saving and manpower saving and other resources. Let me talk about something about Mct Success Story. We recently implemented Maximo and IndiGrid, which is a power transmission distribution company, which has around 7,570 kilometers of transmission lines, 11 substations, totaling about 13,550 megawatt, and 2 solar projects. The challenges were quite big. We have to map the complex structure of their asset transmission lines into the system. Plus, they need uptime reporting, failure reporting in real time. So apart from these challenges, we do address something interesting. Let me share with you this interesting story. One of their pain points was they had employed a private manpower company which was responsible of getting the physical towers inspected and note them in the mobile app. The hired personnel usually don't go to the tower and just put a dummy or fake readings. So those readings what control center was getting were unreliable. So what we did is we incorporated the GS coordinates of the tower with the GS coordinate of the person who was carrying that mobile app, so that if those readings both are matched with a small error of 5 meters, that app will not be open for reading. So now these workers have to go physically to the tower site and get those readings. So I close my today's session with a thought that if you want to increase your profits, we need to plug the losses first, losses which are hidden in our plain sight and affecting the health of the organization. Enterprise asset management can help to improve the way inspection and work orders are done on your critical assets and reduce downtime and unplanned failures, hence getting the hidden profits uncovered. Thanks for you had been a great audience, and you can reach me on the following mobile number or my email ID. Thank you.
That was indeed a very insightful presentation. We now move to the first panel of the day, creating a new normal in real estate. Our panelists are Gitika Bhushan, Senior Associate Director, Office Services, Colliers, India. Gitika Bhushan is currently working with Colliers, India as a Senior Associate Director in Occupier Services. She's an experienced professional in the commercial real estate industry. She handles lease space of office space transaction process right from understanding client's requirement in detail to helping the client do cost benefit analysis to after sales lease services. Her core expertise is negotiation, account management, business development, and market strategy. Ishika Bhattacharya, Brand and Digital Head, Tata Realty and Infrastructure. A passionate marketing professional with 10 years of experience in planning, formulating, strategizing, and coordinating marketing strategies and policies. She currently heads the North and East Digital and Branding portfolio of Tata Realty and Infrastructure. Namita Chiliveru, Director, 360 Life Sustainable Luxury Homes. Namita is a creative director at 360 Life Hyderabad. She's an alumni of New York School of Interior Design. Preeti Chedda, Chief Financial Officer, K. Raheja Corp Investment Managers. Preeti is the Chief Financial Officer at K. Raheja Corp Investment Managers, LLP, managing to Mindspace Business Parks Right. She has been associated with K. Raheja for over 14 years. Ritu Singh, AGM IT, NCRTC. Ritu is a software engineer with more than 6 years of experience in IT software development, especially in transportation sector. Lata Singh, Regional Technology Leader, NEB India, South Asia, IBM. Lata Singh is an IT professional having 25 years of industry experience. She possesses consistent and extensive experience in the sphere of alliance and partner management and consultancy sales. Over to you, Lata. So good morning. Welcome to Women in Construction, Women in Real Estate. Construction Week is organizing for the first time a virtual summit that will highlight the roles that women play across real estate and construction. We have all women panel members with us and an audience of almost 350 who have already logged in, who are already registered for the event. This is the first panel. We have Lata Singh with us, who's an IT professional with 25 years of experience. She possesses consistent and extensive experience in the sphere of consulting sales and alliance and partner management. She has in her various roles over a period of time developed skill sets which are key to collaboration. Currently, she is the Regional Technology Sales Leader, Northeast Bangladesh, driving the overall technology mission that includes partner and client engagements. Over to you, Lata.
Thank you, Jayashree, and a very happy Women's Day to everyone. And it's a pleasure to be on this hosting this panel discussion. So thank you. Construction is a field that we see very active nowadays, and it is really a pleasure to have this August panel of women, where we can really understand not just the business perspective, but how are women engaged in this segment as well. Let me introduce my panel here. Gitika Bhushan. Gitika is currently working with Colliers India as a Senior Associate Director in Occupier Services. She's an experienced professional in the commercial real estate industry. She handles lease, sale of office space, transaction process, right from understanding the client's requirement in detail to helping the client do cost-benefit analysis to after-sales lease services. Her core expertise is negotiation, account management, business development, and marketing strategy. Ishita Bhattacharya, our next panelist, is a passionate marketing professional with 10 plus years of experience in planning, formulating, strategizing, and coordinating marketing strategies, policies, and programs. She currently has the North and East digital and branding portfolio of Tata Realty and Infrastructure. Formerly associated with organizations like Kolte Patil, Developers, Berger Paints, she's a graduate from ICA Ahmedabad. She's a winner of 3 awards at Business Leader and Business Leader of the Year 2021, Brand Excellence in Real Estate, Best Innovative Campaign of the Year, Best Marketing Campaign of the Year. Hey, Ishita, welcome and thank you for joining this panel. Namita Chelveru. Namita is a creative director at 360 Life, Hyderabad. She's an alumni of New York School of Interior Design. She has completed her undergraduates in biotechnology and masters in management, specializing in luxury management. She is also a certified nutritionist and is a winner of 40 Under 40 Entrepreneurs Award. Preeti Chadda is the Chief Financial Officer at K. Raheja Corp Investment Managers. She is a manager to Mindspace Business Parks, REIT. Preeti has been associated with K. Raheja Corporation Group for over 14 years across various roles in commercial real estate. Before joining KRC Group, she worked with Marico Industries, Shell Gas India, and Kane Energy India. So we can see a varied of industry expertise here, both from oil and gas to real estate. Preeti is a qualified CA with over 20 years of work experience. She's also a company secretary and a CFA charter holder. Our final panelist is Ritu Singh. She's a software engineer with more than 16 years of experience in IT software development, specifically in transportation sector. Currently working as AGM IT in NCRTC, she is responsible for bringing about digital transformation in rapid rail transit system in India. Prior to that, she had worked in as a senior software engineer in CRIS, which is the IT arm of Indian Railways. She has in-depth knowledge in cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, data analytics, and machine learning. So welcome to all of you. I don't know if Ritu was able to join. I know she did have a connection issue. So she has joined. Hi.
Yes, I have. She has joined.
Hi, welcome, Ritu. So a quick one. Welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for being here. This is a very exciting field. And my first question will go out to Ritu. I mean, we have so much happening in the country on the infrastructure side. We know the government's focus on building the nation. What is your thought process, Ritu, and what is NCRTC doing on it?
Thank you, Lata. And it gives me a real pleasure to share my feelings. And please pardon me for using this mask because right now I'm sitting in my office itself. It is great to see India developing specifically in infrastructure field. And a good number of projects, infrastructure projects have been completed in the last few years and are pipelined in coming years. And then over and above it, NCRTC, which is a pioneer in bringing about change in the transit sector, is working on RRTS project, which is Regional Rail Rapid Transport System. And it's a nation-building project wherein the capital city of our country would be connected to the neighboring cities through a rapid metro kind of a setup. We at NCRTC are leveraging technology, specifically cutting-edge technology, to bring about this change in the transit sector, wherein every aspect of this particular setup, be it commuter interaction or managing the operations of trains which would be running at a very high speed, we want to leverage technology as much as possible. And hence, we all have been working in that direction.
Thank you, Ritu. And it's a pleasure, like I said, is to hear from you what NCRTC is doing in building the nation. And I think from one area that has been a big focus, and all of us who've been about to see all the progress on the roads and across. I'm going to take it to both Gitika and Preeti, right? The last 2 years of COVID were very tough, especially with people working from home. Real estate was definitely one area that got affected. So Gitika, being in sales in real estate, how was it?
Thank you for and good evening, everyone. Pandemic as a whole came to us, everybody as a whole surprise, and everything went low. So what we did as an organization, in those tough months for us, families and the well-being of the employees was taken as a top priority. So everybody from the executive to the CEO of the company came together, and there was a lot of organizational support, and everything was done to upkeep the employees. Now, when we talk about how the real estate went through in terms of the leasing aspect, it went slow because for obvious reasons everything went slow. There was a major drop in the leasing when we see from the past years to 2020 and 2021. However, everything from a pre-pandemic stage to a pandemic, now we are through to an endemic stage now. So whatever we saw in terms of work from home to discussion rather, which was at a work from home level, are now changing towards is work from home a sustainable thing. So those changes or discussions are really happening in the real estate world. Why are we coming back? There's a lot of interest from the occupiers coming back to take up the space. While during the 2020 and 2021, we saw a lot of movement. A lot of occupiers releasing the spaces. Now people are coming back.
Now, are there different demands now from your clients from what they were 2 years back, keeping the guidelines that you have, right? Are they different? Is that affecting the way that the requirements from the clients are happening?
Absolutely. So, before pre-pandemic, there was a major, 2019, I would say, was the best year for occupier services in India. 2020 went low, 2020 it will bounce back because a lot of occupiers, like I said, release the spaces. Now with social distancing norms, physical distancing norms coming into the play, the per square footage per person is increasing. Where people want the, higher workstation spaces, a lot of collaboration spaces, a lot of open spaces in the offices. So there the per square footage per person is increasing. And hence, and also, a lot of discussions going around the hybrid model. People want to operate from a tier 2 or tier 3 cities if a hybrid model can be worked on there. So a lot of such discussions are happening these days.
Yeah, and Namit, I'm going to take this from Gitika to you. She talked about hybrid workspaces. All of us spent more time at home. The environment at the office also needs to be different. The office spaces are designed differently. With your design and the fact that you're dealing in luxury segment, right? How are you seeing the changes both from home interiors to obviously the office side of it as well?
So like Gitika said, I feel like customers are now asking for more bigger balconies than room sizes. And they obviously need more office space and they're looking for more ventilation and, huge windows and a good community and all of that. And as a designer, sorry, your question was, how am I adding up to this?
Yeah, I'm saying from a work, both from a hybrid cloud, the hybrid work environment that happens, right? In the office space as well as home, what are the changing dynamics that are happening with respect to the design interiors, right?
Office spaces, we actually can't have much changes because of all the computers and all. People still want a lot of AC, closed windows, etc. But there was actually this article where people are seeing a lot of increase in sales of house plants, which is actually a good thing. People are just buying in more plants. They're understanding how air quality has to be improved. And I feel like after COVID now, they're also understanding that sunlight is more important. They're trying to bring in more sunlight into home spaces. I think not much in office spaces, but in interiors, there's actually a lot of change. There's also less VOC paints being released. People are more conscious. People are getting more conscious onto what is chemically harmful for our lungs and all of that.
Now, that's interesting. That basically means people are looking at more not only from a health of the individual or yourself, but also the environment, right? I think environment and the fact that we've all been cooped up in our houses for a long period of time. I think that's something that's definitely affecting. Ishita, to you next, right? You from Berger Paint to where you are now, Tata, I mean, Tata Realty, and you're looking at the North and East segment of it. I know in IT, we say whatever did not take place earlier, the last 2 years has only accelerated the adoption of technology. So how has it been for you from a marketing space?
Thank you, Lata, and good evening, everyone. So in this last 2 years, what we have experienced at a fast pace, which we haven't experienced in the last 8 years. When COVID hit us in the month of March 2020, we were all taken by surprise. The way we dealt with our business had to be completely changed. It was not only work from home, it was work from school, like attending school from home, you are working out from home, everything home became a center. Though it was a challenge which was thrown to us, but it was an opportunity for us being in residential segment also, because home became the center of everything. But when we come to our business processes, we had to change drastically. As we know, home purchase is something which we do after visiting the site. But when during COVID, everything was closed down, there were no opportunity for people to visit site and then book. Then we had to completely transform to digital. We had to create all digital assets, starting from pre-sales call center till the sales team had to be trained to deal with digital assets. So we created our virtual tours, we created our 3D unit plans, we created everything virtually. Also, when you look into the marketing investment, it changed to digital compared to traditional. If initially it was 50-50 digital and traditional, post-COVID it became 70% digital and 30% traditional. So the investment in marketing changed, all the assets converted into digital, everyone started pitching product, video conferencing. The first campaign which we launched in March 2020 was a digital-led campaign, where the campaign launch was through a webinar. 2,000 plus channel partner across India and also from places like Dubai joined the webinar. It was a successful webinar, the first digital launch of our campaign. Post that, things started changing. Now we have entered the world of phygital, where we married physical and digital. So we entered the world of phygital and a hybrid structure, which we were speaking about. So now it's an age of phygital.
I love that, the age of phygital, right? It's not fidgeting, but the age of phygital. Great. I'm going to take this quickly because you brought in the technology concept of it to Ritu, right? Ritu, and you come from a technology background. What are the technology trends that you're seeing from in your industry?
Thank you, Lata, for bringing that up. I mean, the construction industry specifically have been lagging in adoption of technology, even though the base technologies were adopted over the last few decades by most of these infrastructure giants. But then as a whole, if you see, technology was not in the mainstream of these sectors, right? It was considered, if I talk about giants like Indian Railways or even Delhi Metro, the focus was always on the infrastructure part, the civil part of it, or the electrical part of it. Whereas in last few years, I have seen there has been a drastic shift into the mindset specifically of the management. And now the focus has come onto technology, because through technology, you can manage these projects in a wonderful way. I mean, these infrastructure projects are of high value, and then there are multiple aspects which are interdependent onto each other. So during project phase, when you are constructing such a huge infrastructure setup, it is always good to have a system wherein you can monitor the progress, you can in real time see whether you are going to achieve your target or not. All those things which were lagging a few years back, now we have been adopting it. NCRTC specifically, if I talk about it, has been adopting to technology. We have adopted BIM first approach, where building information system gives you a 3D view of where you are today and where you will be in next few months or so. And hence you can visually see your progress and monitor it. We have been doing all our coordination meetings on VC even before pandemic. our inspections of the sites are being done through drone imaginaries, and hence those are very accurate and to the point and can be correlated even after the construction has been done. Hence, technology is playing a very huge role in such construction projects.
Yeah, thanks, Ritu. And it's not just technology that we are used to, but you're also looking at drones and the others that we're talking so much about, and that's interesting to hear, right? All of us do understand this, but I think it is a leap forward for us when we're looking at the type of technologies that are being used now for infrastructure projects. And this gets me to actually Preeti. Can you hear me, Preeti?
Yes, of course.
This is interesting, right? During the pandemic, and especially the last few months, right? And I would say that we had a number of IPOs come out, women-led industries, women-led companies, IPOs coming out. As a CFO here, what is your learning? And I know you came out with an IPO. So do you want to throw a bit of light on what it was post-pandemic? And I know the pandemic hit the real estate business in a pretty bad way. So give us some insights into the industry from a CFO perspective, as well as what it was to really bring out an IPO.
Sure, Lata. Thank you for that question, and good evening, everyone. So, Lata, I guess real estate also went through its own set of challenges during the pandemic, as any other industry went. Fortunately for us, we actually realized the resilience of commercial real estate, which is a business I lead on the finance side. We actually had already done a lot of work on IPO in 2019. And when we were just about to hit the road, we were actually faced with the pandemic. So we had to, slow down on our plan and just see how the entire pandemic unfolded, because it was a completely new animal for any one of us. We really didn't know which way would it go and how is it going to pan out. So we just waited for 1 or 2 months to see how the business was, shaping. It really, helped us move ahead, or it's actually pushing us behind. But fortunately, and I think that was a big surprise, that well in midst of the pandemic, right in April 2020, May 2020, which was just the first 2 months of pandemic, we collected almost 95% of our rentals from our tenants. So that was a very big surprise to us as well. And actually that showed the resilience of our business, and also a lot attributable to, the kind of tenants we have. Almost 85% of our tenants have been MNCs. And that we actually, started rethinking about our IPO plan. And then it was actually in June that we, the bankers reached out to investors and did a dipstick whether, that was the right time for us to even hit the market. And given the 2 month, it was a short track record, but it was what it was. We got a lot of confidence even from our bankers to go ahead with the IPO. And it's July when we hit the road. We were the first IPO post the pandemic. And it was a 4,500 crore IPO, which got subscribed 13x. So I guess that was a huge, big success. And we actually delivered the IPO sitting at home. All of our advisors were at home. We were all at home. And we were, in fact, just struggling to even realize how do we do an IPO sitting at home, because that was something never thought of. You know how an IPO works. Just before the pandemic, we had some 30, 40 people sitting in huge boardrooms discussing the strategy. How are we going to go about? Who are we going to approach? And now suddenly each one of us is working from the home and trying to raise 4,500 crore. So I guess that was a huge, big challenge for all of us. But I guess it was the sheer teamwork. And I guess everybody was completely geared up, to face that challenge. And, those are the times when it's a true test of how team play works. And I guess we really set one example for that by leading the IPO process amidst the amidst the pandemic.
Thank you. And this is really interesting. One is obviously, like you said, collecting your rentals. And I think that's the first benchmark that I would put it, right? As anyone in the business knows, right? If you're not collecting enough, then there's nothing to move forward. So, and congratulations again, right?
Thank you.
It must have been tough, right? Leading the whole group through the exercise, working in a very hybrid model.
Yeah, absolutely. We had calls starting at like 7 a.m. and we used to go on till about 11, 12 p.m. And they were just meetings after meetings. We just finished one Zoom call and get to another Teams call and Zoom call and Teams call. And we had we were, I think, one rare IPO which had 13 bankers. Well, imagine with 13 investment banks working on an IPO, you had legal advisors and then the whole lot of, people working on it. I guess when we started, I was just like a nightmare, but I guess it was just the sheer grit of the team which, led us through this.
Thank you. Just one, and Namita, while I was listening to Ritu on the technology side, just a question that came to me. So I just want to do a small diversion, Namita, is on design, right? A number of design is no longer about only design from fashion side or a design from interiors, right? Designs is really taking a bigger shape across the industries, right? Multiple industries are now talking about the design concept. What are your thoughts on that?
So there are multiple design aspects, like there can be space management, there can be ventilation management. There is this new concept, new to us, but it's actually old, called building biology. So our designs are mainly focused on that, which concentrates on building, getting the outdoors in, also about low EMFs, how magnetic radiations can affect our health, how to minimize that. There's a lot of technical details like that also into it. So our designs mainly focus on, human-centric designs, which are benefiting all the residents through air, water, energy, and also how we can produce our own food in our balconies.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Ritu, to you, just on the design factor, because when you're building the metros, right, and one of the aspect comes in also the design of the coaches and all. Do you want to throw a bit of light on that, or do you want me to just then jump to the next question?
No, that it really plays an important role when you design your trains there.
Yeah.
If you have seen Delhi metro trains, there are advertisements also which come up on the train. There are information system. In fact, in the RRTS system, there would be all the trains or the platforms will have platform screen doors. So we are even planning to have some design aspect in this screen doors as well. So yes, the design aspect plays an important role, and also more than anything else, it also depends on the kind of audience that you have. So, for example, we would be running our trains in the Delhi Meerut area. So the kind of commuters, maybe Hindi-speaking people are more. Hence, you will have to design it in a way that they are able to understand. So definitely, it plays an important role.
Yeah, so the design from the traditional, I know from the fashion industry always believes they always had design as a concept, but if you look at it, both from every industry is now adopting the design thinking methodology, right? Even at IBM, we have the design thinking is when you engage with a client, think of what do they need rather than what do you want to provide to them. And that gets me, Gitika, to you. How has technology enabled you in sales? And then maybe I will go on to specifically on a few questions that I have in mind for all the women leaders here.
So Lata, for technology, I would say, thanks to pandemic, at least we all know everything can be done virtually. Preeti here is saying that they launch IPO virtually. So it's a huge thing that has happened, a big thing that has happened to all of us here. Now, when we talk about technology in the business, as a business development from the real estate occupier services business, I would say we used traditionally dependent on that cold calling stuff, but not any longer, because for us, we are millennials here. We rely on data. We want data. We want everything to be backed by data, and we want everything on our phones. We want everything on our tabs. Now, how we as a real estate firm, we ourselves are also relying a lot of data. Now, when we have a right data in place, we formulate our strategies accordingly. We formulate our customers accordingly. We pick our customers accordingly. These are the things that are brought to us through technology. So that is where it's playing a huge role for us to select our customer, strategize what we want to deliver, and then we deliver.
Yeah, so more data-driven approach, right, is what we're saying. While gut instinct we all believe in, right, but having data to prove it is and I know Preeti will agree, right? Coming from this finance side of it, numbers will really showcase.
Yeah.
I saw you nodding a lot, Preeti, so I guess, yeah, that resonates.
When we have, let's say I talk about a client, okay, I'm come from the occupier business. So when we have, let's say, these details for some client, the past details, I know where they are heading. I know what will be the right solution, and I know how to present it. So that cannot be done through cold calling. So that is where technology has, as a whole, is playing a lot of role for us to graduate to a next level as well.
Yeah, and you know, coming back to a few questions, and this is on technology. And technology, I think, is an equalizer, right, for everyone. And we see more women entering the workspace because of that, right? We did see that the hybrid model allowed a number of women to look at different roles that they maybe hadn't, and that brings me to a few questions around the fact that, you know, while we'd all like 50-50 representation, we know it's not there, right? And especially in your industry, I do, by the way, when I look at it from maybe a decade back to now, we see more representation in the industry. But I specifically want to really ask each one of you, right, a few things that you are doing differently to represent yourself as women and in your industry, but as well as how are you empowering the other women in your teams. And Ritu, I saw a fabulous, you know, video that came out of NCRTC, and I was doing that bit of homework, and it was amazing to say what it was leading the change, right? Just correct me if I got it wrong, but that was a wonderful one. I didn't even realize you have so many women with civil engineering background working on the site. So do you want to talk a bit about the women in the industry, and then we'll go on to each of the others?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that is a wonderful video that we have shared, and it is always a privilege to see women in such positions. Specifically, if you see civil, electrical, mechanical, these kind of fields are basically male dominated for last many decades, and even today they are male dominated. But then there are female participation, female officers who are on the field and actually nailing it with their dedication and knowledge, which is very evident from the video that you just mentioned. I would request everyone to have a look at it. It is available on LinkedIn and all other platforms. And it is always good to enter a room filled with men, and they all looking at you as an expert in technology. It gives you a sense of pride, it gives you a sense of achievement, which is always there. And I think this is something that we all have been nurturing for many years now, and would love to see more women. And as we were discussing last time also with Lata, we are the role models not only for our colleagues in our office, but also for spouses of our colleagues who look forward to us for inspiration. And and then we in a way are also giving a thought to respect women to our colleagues when they go back home.
Absolutely. I think that's a part is how are we ensuring that there are more women who aspire and become the change, right? And Preeti, to you from the IPO perspective, as well as you're in a field where, if I look at really from a finance perspective, while everyone did say numbers are not women's ways, right, in the past, but we know that women are leading many industries, and especially the finance functions. How is your team doing, and how are you ensuring that, you know, you have a very balanced representation?
So Lata, I think things have changed a lot in the last couple of years. We do not have so many women in real estate, especially because if you look at the real estate history, the whole corporatization of real estate is also something which actually started somewhere around 2007. It's the last 15 years where we've actually seen this, sector corporatize. We've seen a lot of institutional money coming in real estate in the last several years. In fact, today, real estate is one sector which has got the highest private equity money across all the sectors. So I think finance is assuming a lot of significance in real estate, especially with so many transactions and so much institutional money pouring in. Of course, in my team also, I've had a lot of women. In fact, private equity is something which is very common with real estate. because every project works as a different, I would say a company, and we have private equity coming in each of these entities. Even we've had private equity investments in our portfolio. And I had a time when the entire transaction was led by an all-women team. So in our organization also, and in all across the organization, in fact, across all levels, we have women now actually taking leadership positions. And actually, the very fact that on your panel, you have so many women from
Yes.
different disciplines itself talks where the sector has moved.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so great to be, seriously moderating this session, because I am happy to be in front of so many women, and it's great to really listen to each one of you. Ishita, I know marketing, we have a number of women in the marketing field, but especially in the real estate business, we have less, right? So what's your perspective? And you can give it anything. It doesn't have to be with yours only. I just want to hear from each one of you.
Yeah, definitely. I have been in the sector for last 6 years. I have seen things change from a single women member in the marketing team. Today we have a balance. Okay, like in last 5 years, it has changed. And also the industry is believing in women. Today, I am leading a business of approximately more than 1,000 crores. So the company, the people are trusting women even today. So like they are giving leadership position, women are growing, women are showing their capabilities. It is not only about empowerment of women, but women bring to the table a lot of things. Like women have few natural tendency to be leaders, I say. The empathy that women bring to the table, multitasking skills, which I think we women have already, and these things which we bring to the table, emotional intelligence, which we are ahead of even the male counterparts of us. So these are all qualities and balance that you require in a woman leader. During this tough period of COVID, there was a lot of empathetic leader we were looking forward to. Because during the tough period, we did not, there were a lot of things about the team. You had to keep the team together. They were having personal crisis, yet they had to excel professionally. So only an empathetic leader could take it forward. So a lot of learnings from women's side we got here.
Thank you. And I think that's a perspective of empathetic leadership, right, which women bring to the table. And Namita, one other aspect that I wanted to check with you is the fact that the things change so fast. So how do you keep yourself relevant? I mean, it's not just about, being empathetic leaders, but being also relevant in your space. So how do you keep yourself relevant, right? There's changes that happen very regularly.
So currently, I feel like both design and ourselves, we have to be empathetic towards everybody. I'll just tell what happened during COVID in our company. I can proudly say we had 200 employees and not one of them was hospitalized, and more than 50% of them were tested COVID positive, both during first wave and second wave. We personally gave them medicines, mostly organic medicines, organic food from our farms. We send them a diet for the next 14 days on what to do. And none of them were hospitalized. They were perfectly all right. And everybody recovered. And I feel like our design is a reflection of what we are doing. Our homes are built to be, healthy, less negative impacts, more ventilation, and a lot more.
How does the adoption happen from the fact that you have so many global changes happening and in India as well, right? Is the time to get new design concepts into India? Because the gap is lessening, right? Earlier we used to say what happens in India and what happens globally has a smaller space or time, right? Has a larger time to reach India, but now it's right on the fly because everyone is really online, right? So do you see that impacting the fact that there are certain design flavors that are coming into India that people want to adopt as soon as possible?
I don't think anything is taking a lot more time in India. Whatever we see outside, we can do it quickly. Yes, we are able to adapt quickly, and also whatever the customers need, we are delivering that. And I feel like our customers are also shocked, listening to this concept. They're like, oh, something like this can be done. And they're just convinced pretty quickly listening to our design concepts.
Fabulous. And Gitika, I know, like I said, sales in any field is tough, right? And sales equally has to be empathetic, right? It cannot be you're selling without understanding your environment. But Are there many women in sales in your industry, and how has it been for everyone? Or are you know, how many more women are you actually really mentoring, tutoring, and mostly mentoring to get to the same field?
So, Lata, like Ritu said, 2007 was the year of revolution for real estate industry, and that is when I entered this industry. So, from 2007 to 2022, we are sitting now. I have seen a lot of changes. I've been on the developer side, I've been on the consultant side. So, there has been a gradual shift from the acceptance of a woman in the workplace in the real estate industry. So, when we organization, we are a very diverse organization. We will see a lot of women in the leadership or going towards the leadership. When I talk about my team, I have multiple women working with me. So with us, so we as an organization follow and are empowering women to be in those places where men are. Not in the real estate, but let's say 2 years down the line, I want to change the industry and move to a different one. I want my teammate, let's say, want to move to a different one. So at least they have those qualities as being empowered women to go and lead any other organization.
Fabulous. And it's all about leading, right? Leading the right way and leading the way and breaking into new domains. So if I had to ask each one of you one word, right, or make it a sentence, one word would be a bit tougher, is what keeps you awake at night, or what is the one change that you want to bring in yourself? I'm going to go by, this is like a eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So Preeti, one thing that you really want to make a change or bring a differentiator, or what keeps you awake at night?
So Lata, nothing keeps me awake at night. I'm pretty happy doing my role, and the amount of empowerment this organization gives me, it just helps me grow, every day that passes just helps me get better. So there's nothing really that keeps me awake. And I think, given how things are changing for women, I guess there is a huge platform available for Indian women now, not just in India, even globally. And I think women have demonstrated beyond any limit as to what they can do and what they can achieve for organizations. I don't think now any one of us actually, differentiates between men and women. I think gone are those days.
Fabulous. And you took more than a sentence or a word, so I'm going to cut the time for others.
Sorry about that.
So, Ritu, to you, one word, one sentence.
I think technology is an ever-growing area, and there are newer things every day. I mean, I'm again using more than one word or more than one sentence, but then yes, technology is my one word.
Yeah. Okay. Ishita, to you.
Yeah, the passion for the work. I really love the work which I'm doing, and learning every day and growing, like excellence, like excelling yourself, like you are your competition, learn every day and grow.
Fabulous. Gitika.
I think the zeal to deliver more. We target to an organization. I come from the most revenue team to deliver extra.
Fabulous. Namita, over to you.
So I'm an environmentalist at heart. So the zeal to give back to the environment, to the society also keeps me at night.
So thank you. And to just summarize, I think we all heard how the infrastructure space and the construction business is really taking an upward trend. We are seeing many projects come in which are being invested in by the government, and we heard from Ritu as well. It's amazing what women in construction are doing, and I'm very happy that I had time to chat up with each one of you, because it's a learning in reverse that I've done. I think one of the things that, or a few of them, and I can't say it in one word also, so I'm going to use multiple sentences, is technology is a great leveler, and I can see that is the fact that during the pandemic, I think it showcased the fact that technology adoption happened very fast across multiple industries, and also, obviously to keep all the teams engaged, but the technology that is being used in the construction space is definitely at a very different level. If I look at the way that Gitika described it, Ritu described it as well, right? And Namita from a design perspective. So I would say technology adoption is relevant to everyone now. It's no longer about going to your technology teams, but learning technology on your own. 2 is keep your passion high, keep your zeal, and be empathetic leaders. It's also about being, and I will take it one more step from being environmental focus to being focused on the planet and looking at what's good for the human beings as well as what is good for the environment. That is a key that we do in our daily life. That's so important for all of us. So thank you, ladies. Wishing all of you a great year and a happy Women's Day. Thank you so much.
Wish you the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Happy Women's Day.
Thank
you, Lata.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lata. That was indeed a very insightful discussion. We'll now return at 1:30 to begin with the second panel. Thank you for being patient with us. Welcome to Women in Construction. We are celebrating this event because we thought it only right that we find a way to connect with women in the construction and real estate world who have, through sheer grit and determination, made it here. Our second panel for the day will speak on technology disruptions and investments. Our esteemed panelists this today are Anshu Shukla, Head of Design, Gera Developments Private Limited. Anshu is a seasoned architect and a construction management professional with 20 years of experience in large-scale commercial development and community homes across 10 cities. She's passionate about sustainability, green buildings, and energy-efficient projects. Chitra Jain, Director, Samyak Properties and Infrastructure, an architect planner also with over 30 years of experience in architecture and planning. She has been involved in designing, detailing, and coordinating projects of various scales. She looks at a project at both city and building level holistically. She has been a visiting faculty in both undergraduate and postgraduate programs in school planning at the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, for over 15 years, and in IP University MBA program in real estate for 2 years. Darshana Parmar Jain, Director, Legato Spaces, with 25 years of experience in technology and real estate. Her varied roles with Fortune 500 companies in the UK and US have given her a strong global edge. A master's in software sciences from the University of St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. She's an inveterate entrepreneur in the real estate and technology domains. The first woman to be in the National Executive Committee CREDI, she championed the cause for more women developers in real estate. From real estate to virtual real estate developments and NFTs, she's working on cutting-edge projects. Devi Shankar, President, Industrial and Logistics Data Center, Anarok Capital. With an experience of over 17 years, Devi has worked in the entire gamut of investments from private equity, investment banking, and structuring. In her current role at Anarok Capital, she heads the industrial and data centers, focusing on investment banking, land acquisition, and co-location sales. She has been part of multiple marquee transactions in the real estate space, covering multitude of asset classes. She holds an MBA honors from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business and is a chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Shweta Sharma, Head Building Segments and Strategic Accounts, Schneider Electric. Shweta has over 17 years of experience and has had sales, business development, and strategy positions. She's an industrial engineer with postgrad in marketing. In her current role as Schneider Electric, Shweta oversees the building segments and strategic accounts for Greater India. She implements innovative energy management and automation technologies to create a hyper-efficient and resilient and above all, energy sustainable environment. Welcome to the panel, ladies. Before we begin, I would just like to tell you all about why Women's Day. Women's Day is a very special day for us. Of course, every day is Women's Day, but today, we need to have a day marked to it. So that's why. And what we will talk about is the various roles across various roles, how women are making a difference, be it through the aesthetics that they bring in, be it through the intelligence, or be it through the education. I think I'll start with Anshu first. Anshu, you at Gera. In real estate, design is where it all begins. making distinct projects requires creativity. How do you envision this in your mind's eye before starting on a project?
Hi Jayashree, thanks for inviting me here. And thanks to all the panelists here. Let me put across for real estate, as a designer, it all kind of begins with more or less kind of getting a product brief from the teams, which is the stakeholders, the management. By management, I mean the CMO and the managing director. So basically, the project brief itself, which is nothing but more of a project vision, becomes my boundaries of design. Eventually, what happens is these boundaries itself, help in becoming more creative and exciting that ways, because you're trying to work within these boundaries and constraints. Having said that, first and foremost, the guiding principle I would put across is putting the users and their needs at the center of design. It's important for me to understand that who are my end users, whether the project is intended for a high-end customer or whether you're looking at a child-centric development. Whether what's the kind of the user experience I'm trying to create. Can I bring in the joy of living in the community? What's the or for that matter, even for a commercial project, what's the fun of coming to work, the joy of working at a collaborative workspace? Having thought of all of that, it's a process about how I can also create a new value for the project, which is somewhat distinct than what has been done in what is being done in the past. The larger and the more complex rather the project gets, the deeper you need to start working towards the design. It's more about working from a whole into part, and then detailing things out, but looking at the minutest things, and then looking at going from part again back to whole. So it's basically a more of an iterative process, keeping the larger goal of the project in terms of meeting the business requirements and the customer needs. So yeah, that's what would basically be the basic framework when we start on the design.
Chitra, moving on to you. You mainly work in affordable housing and retail. This works very well in tier 2 and 3 cities. But how can this concept, which is also the government's agenda, be made a success in metros?
In spite of having conducted classes online for last 2 years, it still is like, okay, something goes wrong. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on the panel, and lovely to see all young ladies in real estate in various roles today. So coming to your question of how we can make affordable housing a success in metro cities. Well, for that to be a success, the first thing I think the most important is to really try and look at input costs, which is really the key to a project, to make it viable. And today, if you look at it in the last 2-3 years, the land cost and the raw material costs have really gone up. Literally, they've doubled. So today, if you want to make an affordable project, a housing project a success, is you have to see how you can maximize the FAR so that you can offset this increase in cost which has happened. And now how is to maximize the FAR is of course one way. The second is also to look at and detail out the TDR, which we've been talking about TDR in various perspectives, but there is still a lack of clarity on how is the entire mechanism going to be operated and which are the receiving areas. So there is a lack of clarity on those. So there is this, I would say a little reticence in wanting to get into an affordable housing project because it has to be made more viable today. There should probably be a single window of, clearance, which would be helpful. And if you look at, projects, especially if you're looking at in the background of Haryana, which is where, our affordable housing projects under Deen Dayal Jan Awas Yojana, which we started, is that you are literally following, I agree, this is also group housing, but you're following a similar process as a normal group housing project. So with the same amount of costs which are on a normal group housing project, so which is making the viability a little less attractive on an affordable project. So I think there should be a different process to be followed. Maybe simplify the process, simplify the levies and the costs which go into the project. So to make it more attractive. So this is from the real estate perspective. I could go on and on because coming from an academic background, I can go on about it. But yes, broadly, I think one is how and where the private entity and the private players can come in. And also is, you're looking at, again, housing, not just as, creating new housing stock is one. And how do you also regenerate and redevelop your existing housing stock in the cities, in the metro cities? So how can that again be made more attractive for a better participation from the private sector? That is another, totally different subject. And here we are not only looking at policy, we are also looking at spatial planning. So they have to be in tandem. So the planning authority and the government has to identify the right kind of land at the right location, make it available at the right, cost. So that's the way forward. And, land cost, I understand, is not so easy that you can say, all right, fine, I'll give you land at a cheaper cost. So maybe then playing the FAR card would be the key, is maybe look at 1.5 to 2 times the FAR for another project, for a regular project versus an affordable, housing project.
Darshana, you deal with virtual real estate, which is really making waves. Tell us about the venture that you are in and how it works as a business, and how can brick and mortar real estate business thrive or benefit from this?
So virtual real estate essentially is that it is land that is created digitally, right? And it is shocking. A lot of people are like, this is probably a scam, but essentially what it means is a digital twin of the physical world. That's what is happening online. Our kids are playing, games like Fortnite and, what have you. A lot of children are playing games, right? And these are like 3D, AR, VR virtual games. But these games are owned by a single company, right? You're not really making anything out of it. So these virtual lands that we are talking about, they are sold as NFTs, okay? Which means you get full ownership of that land. So it's called a metaverse. Essentially, that's the name that it goes by today. So if anybody's creating a metaverse and you're buying land in that, it is your ownership, which means on that land, if you were to create anything, a shopping mall or a events venue or whatever, the revenue coming out of that is yours and not the owner of the metaverse. It's like buying real estate. You bought it here, whatever you build on it, if Gera decides to build a commercial mall, they're making money, right? Similarly, in virtual real estate, you can actually buy land and generate revenue out of these lands. That's what's going on right now digitally. How can brick and mortar houses benefit from it? So I think that this is a tech game, right? So mostly business houses that are tech savvy would probably get this, and maybe they need to partner with, these are mostly startups doing it. So partner with a startup that is creating these lands, because that's where all the money is.
Okay, I'll talk more on this, Darshan. I'll need more information on this later. The technology plays a very crucial role today. So this is one question that will direct to you and Shweta. Technology plays a very crucial role today. What is the kind of technology you deploy at your work? I mean, considering the kind of you're into investments, private equity, how do you deploy technology?
So thanks, Jayashree. Firstly, it's a pleasure being in a all-women forum, like you mentioned sometime back to all of us. I just want to give an anecdote here. When we speak of technology all the time today, and we cannot really live without it. I remember when I was always good at academics. And when I gave my CA final, which was like the last set of exams I had to give, there was only one subject I failed in, the first time I ever flunked an exam, and that was technology. And at that time I decided I'm never going to have anything to do with technology, and I'm okay being technology dumb, but I don't want anything to do with technology. But you say, man proposes, God disposes. Life comes a full circle, and today you can't really do without it. But today it's actually a subject which I really enjoy understanding quite a bit. we are always looking at what kind of technology we can adopt not only in our work, because work, of course, we think of it more logically because we have to work productively, we have to work efficiently. But even in our personal lives, we have access to so much of technology to make our lives so much easier. So there's always, enough options available for us to choose from for any productivity tools, efficiency tools that we want to adopt. So at least in the kind of field that I am in investments, data security is such an important aspect because all the information that is shared is very sensitive, and there's a lot of confidentiality attached to it. So the kind of firewalls and data management systems that we use to ensure that we are maintaining the security of the data that is shared, that is one area that we constantly focus on. There are a lot of productivity tools that we adopt, whether it is for managing our day-to-day work, note-taking, or just communication, for example, like, ensuring that we're not just using WhatsApp, but other means of communication where we can channel the conversations depending on the topic so that we can retrieve things easily later on when required. So there is a lot that, is available today in terms of technology. Even in my personal life, I've, completely moved to cloud. I don't need my laptop anymore. I have access to all my personal files anywhere, anytime. And the same is with work. So I don't really need my laptop ever to work. And I think that's also a natural consequence of the pandemic that we have been through, where remote work is so important. And in the real estate field, where a lot of us need to be out at times, and we may not be doing desk jobs all the time. Having access to all the data 24/7, that's such an important part of making your life easier and improving productivity. So these are all, Jayashree, various aspects where we have tried, and we keep on the lookout for technology solutions that can make our life and work easier.
Shraddha, moving on to you, you use technology, you work in a technology-oriented company. How would you have to, suppose you had to nurture younger talent, in terms of, using or technology, how would you do that?
Okay, thank you, Jayashree, first of all, for inviting me here, and I'm really happy to be in this forum with the lovely ladies, So talking about how a technology company or organization like Schneider is cultivating, talent pool. So if you ask me personally, I feel that there is no specific guideline, and there is no specific kind of like one size that will fit all kinds of talent. However, if you look at it at a broad level, I would say there are 3-4 important aspects which needs to be aligned, and especially when we talk about nurturing the talents, right? So I'll start with the first point, which is providing the opportunities, and I feel providing equal opportunities to all the genders, all the potential is extremely important when we talk about nurturing the talent. We need to be very, very mindful of unconscious biases which is around us. So that's one of the point which I think is very important to start with. I also think is what is another point which is very important in this topic is motivating the talents. Now, motivating the talents to step up, to make the right decisions, to identify what are their capabilities and pick up the right, roles as per their capability. This could be again a very, very kind of diverse approach, I feel. When it comes to women talent, the concerns could be very different. It could be very different because they are not always very, pro. They could have some other constraints back at home. So the motivational aspects for them could be very different from their male counterparts. So that's, I think, point number 2 in nurturing the talent. Third, I would say, is conversation. Very, very important, I feel. Navigating the right conversations and on a regular basis is very important. You need to have a mentor, you need to have coach who will guide you through your journey, you know. And lastly, I think it's all about, you know, creating an environment, creating an ecosystem where you can nurture these talents. So the points which I have mentioned, it is eventually going to become a mainstream philosophy, I would say. Yeah. So we need to create that kind of environment, that kind of ecosystem to get those talents nurtured in the organization. So that's what are my 2 cents on this.
Thank you, Shweta. Darshana, as regional chair for FIB, I hope you pronounce it FIBRI.
Ivory, yes.
FIBRI. What applications of blockchain are being implemented in real estate?
So there's a lot going on within the blockchain space, and blockchain essentially helps with the security and in terms of identity. There are a lot of applications for blockchain, but for real estate, I think, you know, the 2-3 core applications I'm seeing are fractional real estate, which is, you know, you are actually able to tokenize an asset and, you know, sell it. It makes real estate very accessible. The entry point, the entry barrier that is there for real estate, which is very high. It really opens a very illiquid market to the liquid. So fractional real estate is something that's big right now. The only issue is that the regulation in India, you know, it amounts to like a chit fund. So you can only do it like a AIF or a REIT. So that's where we are at with fractional real estate. The other 2 applications that I see coming on very strongly, one is, you know, like a virtual broker for real estate houses, you know, on a blockchain technology would be a huge thing to look at going forward. And a very important use case that I see is tokenization of funds. So even fund tokenization for real estates, or even if you look at ARCs, like there are a lot of assets sitting in NPAs with ARCs. So those assets to get tokenized, or the funds to get tokenized. So I see that as a very large use case for the real estate industry. And as far as the only thing that I see here for it to become as big as it can be, is that you would have to have like, you know, institutional grade asset management companies, like these digital assets that are being tokenized and sold. So the management companies or the management tech that needs to be created or that needs to be there has to be really robust. And, you know, I think Devi spoke about security. It becomes a very important part of creating these tech platforms. So blockchain also will come into the space of identities very, very strong. And I think eventually we would like to do all of our contracts digitally and, you know, be able to eliminate that kind of paperwork if we are able to, you know, bring that. One of the other use cases that for real estate, maybe not on the developer side, but on the government side, is to bring land records on blockchain. So all of the digitization and land records are, you know, most of the states are looking at blockchain being the, you know, core technology to bring land records on there, so that there's no duplication. You know, there's not going to be redundancy in terms of ownership. Today, land is the most litigious subject within real estate, I mean, within this domain. So these are the technologies that I see that where blockchain will play a very, very vast role.
Chitra, coming to you as a founder, you are also a founding member of Naredko Mahi. What are some of the initiatives that you have begun to empower women? I mean, I know that Naredko Mahi is actually taking off on a big scale. You know, there are lots of activities happening there. But then tell us about some of the activities that you're planning.
See, we took off in September 2021 was when Mahi was, you know, formulated and the core group came together. And today we have a good presence across states, you know, in India, both in the south, west, north, east. So we are bringing together women who are at various levels, mid-management, top management, and in various aspects of real estate, legal, finance, and design, marketing, sales. So some of the activities that we thought was, you know, was to actually the main idea was to empower women at the end of the day, empower women who are in real estate, handhold, the ones who require hand-holding, mentoring. So what we have kind of started setting out right now is creating, small modules, is education and skilling. So education programs for, let's say, women who are, maybe entry level, or people who, women who want to become entrepreneurs, maybe eventually. So what kind of, mentoring that they would require. So we are just working out, actually formulating all those as programs and short modules for us to set off. The second is also, and one of the very interesting areas that we would really like to look at is skilling women, not just at, our level, maybe when we are looking at senior management level, but also at the unskilled labor level. So, predominantly the women or women working on ground are primarily unskilled labor. And that's across the country is, I think, about 90-95% or over that would be unskilled labor. They do, and they are capable of doing a lot of work, but somehow have already, always been bracketed under the unskilled labor. So that's one area which we are looking at to see whether we can add some skilling, modules, which can be actually implemented on site, so that they can then, use their time being on site and contributing to the construction. That's one area which we are looking at tying up with developers who would like to, offer their platform for this. The third area is also on advocacy and also on policy level. Looking at what is the, from the user perspective as women, what are the value adds that we can bring in to at policies. That's another area that we are looking at. We are outlining a lot of programs and very ambitiously on that. So these are right now the, the major areas that we are really looking at. One is on education modules, skilling, and the third is, of course, mentoring would continue, and a lot of hand-holding and encouragement to women. So we understand that as women, we not only have to perform, on the work front, but we also have the family and the, the nurturing, which also happens on the family side. So that's something which we have to learn to balance. And so that's one support group. It's more like, let's look at it like a support group also that we are looking at that can be created. So I don't want to bore you all. We have a lot of programs, but right now this is what we're looking at.
So that would be, you're talking about for the urban women also, or you're talking about only women at the sites? Whether immaterial or urban or rural?
No, you see, normally when you say skilling and, hand-holding for, women who are already in, maybe in the management roles that, in the real estate sector. But this is the other huge, women workforce, which is there, which is on site and which is on the construction sites, which have always been relegated to an unskilled labor. So that's one level which we thought would be very challenging, because that's not only a question of creating skilling, modules for them, which do exist. We have CIDC, which is already working for, a long time on this. And we have groups like Seva, etc. in Ahmedabad who are also doing this kind of skilling. But geared primarily to women. It's not only the skilling, but it is also the social aspect of it. It is also sensitizing the male counterparts on site to kind of acknowledge and accept women not only as unskilled but also as skilled labor working alongside them. Imagine there is a mason who's working who also has a woman mason who's working alongside. They're always used to seeing women carrying the bricks or maybe transporting or mixing mortar and all that, but to actually see them doing this work, which is the only dividing line which divides them from skilled to unskilled. They do virtually everything except that one last bit. So they can even be good painters and polishers, which are not very, I would say, labor intensive in terms of like requiring a lot of strength, which the men have, and they probably would be challenged in that way. They could also be working in, as plumbers. They could also be working as tile layers. So in teams, along with like a male counterpart who can do the cutting, and the woman can be doing the laying part of it. So they could also be in the supervisory roles, which they are very good at. If they are good at home management, they are also good at managing, work at site, is what we believe. So this is one area which we thought that we should also be working at. Looking at, and for all the other layers and levels where we would be looking at mentoring and hand-holding.
Anshu, coming to you, the world of real estate, you require, like we decided at the beginning, that, you need to stay distinct. Projects need to be outstanding. Of course, we're not getting into the price factor and this.
Yeah.
But how do you look at staying, updated, or making sure that your design is really outstanding, or staying contemporary? How do you keep yourself updated and contemporary?
So, sticking with the old mode of design doesn't hold good with the changing times. Things are becoming dynamic. We're realizing that in the past couple of years, rather the last 2-3 years has taught a lot that, you cannot work in the same conventional way. You'll have to look at ways of how we are able to imbibe and amalgamate. A large part of it is the technology factor, which actually needs to be merged with design. Now, there are two aspects to it when I'm talking about imbibing the technology along with design. So one side is, while in terms of construction and execution, how the technology or what are the building technologies that can be used to improve and design. There's the other side of design also through softwares about how we could enhance our design creation, design development, the new skills that we get, factors like BIM, which help us, come up with iterations, the Revit. All these are old, relatively old technology, but have not been used to that large scale. But I think with time changing, with the pace at which we're looking at, with the scale that we're looking at, it's very important that, while at the site level also we are looking at, enhancing the pace of work, it needs to be done at the design level as well. Having said all of that, we really need to think that design cannot be only techno savvy. It'll have to have the element of human centricity in it. Again, how we are able to inculcate use of technology in creating better workspaces, in creating better living, construction of, better lifestyle. When I'm talking about homes, what can I do inside a house, by adding more technology, by creating more easy to live experiences for people. There are factors other than technology. I would also say factors like creating a more humane environment, adding in right now with COVID, we've realized that the need for nature to be part of your living. So how are we trying to see of merging nature, which is through biophilic architecture that you can create inside your community. So all these factors are there, which keep evolving. The larger picture being that the needs of the people keep changing. So with the needs changing, the designs also need to keep evolving. You cannot stick to those old conventional ways. This is what we've been doing for years together and continue to do. So every and it's also a particular kind of design might work for a set of community. A different kind of design would work for another community. So which are our target audience? Whom are you designing for? And plan all of that together. So that's how it would come. Another thing I would say that with the pace and with, as what Chitra was also mentioning earlier, is that the requirement of materials, the shortage of materials to some extent, use of natural materials which are getting more and more less available. What is it more that we are able to do in terms of making a more sustainable development, in terms of creating a more efficient design, to say so that you're optimizing what you're designing. So these all factors is what we're realizing is becoming more and more, more and more important for us to focus on, and not just pure aesthetics. Just aesthetics is no longer the game. Yeah, so that's what.
That was really interesting. Devi, you are in the space where I can say, I mean, the demand for real estate is actually booming, whether it's industrial or data centers. Especially and considering that the commercial project, the commercial real estate has been slacking because thanks to the pandemic. These have taken off. How are your customers? I mean, how are you looking at what is the attractiveness of data centers for private equity customers, and what is the kind of ROI that they get?
So, Jayashree, you're right that I'm in the two industries which are really in the focus of the country's economic engine right now, which is data centers and industrial logistics. Definitely a lot of action, but again, industrial logistics is also a segment that had its own share of issues during the pandemic, especially in 2020. In the peak of the lockdown. So we saw even industrial logistics, warehousing, the demand absolutely fell. There was some time before everyone could come back and find their feet again. But in 2021, there is, the sector has actually taken off, especially driven by e-commerce players, e-commerce, 3PL logistics players, and on the manufacturing side by pharma and to an extent electronics. Logically so, because these were two sectors that were very important to for us to adapt to a pandemic world. So there has been a lot of revival and growth, and industrial is still growing because it is a part of the government's focus area in terms of giving incentives and the whole Make in India scheme that the current government is working towards. So definitely these are industries where there is a lot of growth happening. Data centers has now become a critical infrastructure, also classified as such in the budget this year. So data centers is now again one of the sectors which will get treated as an essential service, as an infrastructure, and therefore benefit out of the various policies that are relevant to it. Now, I've data centers, to my mind, is absolutely critical. We can't do without it with the amount of data that we are consuming. And we are in a phase where investors, private equity investors, are absolutely gung-ho about both these segments, whether it's industrial logistics or data centers. Warehousing, of course, has had its fair share. Just give me a second. Warehousing, of course, has had its fair share of growth since the last 4 years, but investors have started seeing as industrial and manufacturing as an equally important segment to focus on, and not just the large e-commerce players or 3PL players who come and take large spaces. But COVID has taught developers that there has to be a fair share of balance in your customer base, and therefore industrial has become extremely important. And today we are working with investors who are looking at industrial as a segment, not just data centers, not just logistics. So industrial has become a kind of an engine, which investors have recognized, and they are looking at investing in this segment as well and diversifying. Data centers, of course, is a different gameplay altogether. We are in a very typical phase, I would say, where there's so much money chasing data centers, and the opportunities for investing today are much lesser as compared to the capital which is available, simply because India is in that stage of its growth life cycle where we are at the absolute bottom of the cycle where we are taking off today. So the opportunities today are limited, and it's a very exciting phase to see how this will pan out in the next 5 years. But a lot of investor interest still in the two segments, and hopefully we will, in the next thing that we will see in on the investment side is a logistics REIT, hopefully, because that's the next segment that's maturing after commercial and offices, and then probably followed by data center REITs as well.
Shweta, let's talk about technology again. Technology, you have a lot of new technologies that you keep emerging with, How do you look at your customers? How do you, sort of coax or encourage your customers to, to get more productive with technology and to adopt it faster?
Okay, so technology is certainly all around us, right? We have been hearing that in last 2 years, the digitization has leapfrogged in almost every sector. And in energy and automation, in construction and building infrastructure, I think it's not an exception. The things are very much similar. Now, what is differentiating or what is highlighted is how technology is helping while we are seeing there is a shift in the priorities of different, I would say, value chain players in this sector. We see lots of, human aspects are becoming important. Things like well-being, things like sustainability becoming carbon neutral or rather carbon negative. These were all, buzzword just 2-3 years back, right? And now these are must-have features in any infrastructure, any building infrastructure we talk about. So certainly technology has come in a very, very big way. There is an acceleration, I would say double acceleration of digitization, which is helping in this journey of becoming more efficient, hyper efficient, becoming more sustainable, things like that. So to pinpoint, I would say there is Internet of Things, IoT at various levels, starting from the base level of any infrastructure at the product level. You have multiple products when you construct a building, right? So all those products, all those solutions are becoming intelligent. Those dumb products are getting replaced by the intelligent products, and this is providing an integrated approach to the whole system. So integration at the deepest level of the building of any infrastructure. So that's one thing. Then we have artificial intelligence. I truly believe, the capability of AI is, I would say, is being extracted only 20-30%. It is a very, very powerful tool, with more and more logical algorithms coming into the picture, more and more sophisticated algorithms. Mining of big data is becoming more and more efficient, right? This is helping in real estate with respect to technology, making better decisions with respect to, again, making your operations more efficient, making your building more digitized, right? So when it comes to, okay, I'll talk about Schneider. What are we doing? So these are some of the basic technologies which we are using in Schneider Electric to help real estate customers. We use a platform, technology platform called EcoStructure. Now, this is a kind of digital architecture which is completely transforming the domains in electrical, in mechanical, and in workplace of the building, right? So here again, IoT-enabled products are creating the robust baseline at the product level. And we have, we have edge control softwares. Why edge control softwares? Because still we see, large number of customers who are still hesitant moving complete operations, complete data to the cloud. So on-premises software, on-premises control and monitoring software is something which is, again, is what we are very strong with. I also see cloud-based technologies, cloud-based solutions with the advanced digital twin models, intelligent automation coming into very fast, customers asking for it very fast in a very big way. So these are some things which is creating that technology, bringing in, comfort, bringing in lots of changes in the building environment. And with the help of EcoStructure, we are catering to different domains. I just heard so much about data centers. So data center is certainly one of those domains where technology is very fast, so I would say real estate is still not that trendsetter subsegment of the larger sector, but data center is. So I see this technology bringing software as services, energy as services, lots of OPEX based solutions beyond the CapEx models. These are becoming mainstream in a very big way. Yeah. So to sum it all, technology in real estate, technology in building environment is key now with the changing times. Yeah.
Darshana, coming to you, we were talking about blockchain and being implemented in real estate. There's also something called tokenization. What exactly is that, and what are its challenges?
So I talked about fund tokenization and asset tokenization earlier, right? And in terms of technology, these are breaking up an asset into little pieces and then selling ownership of that asset, right? Essentially, that's what tokenization means. And you get ownership of that token. Now in India, there is, there are governing laws that don't support it, right? Because you can't sell land, like land is a state subject here in India. So every state has its own laws. So like in Maharashtra, you can't sell less than 11 guntha of land, right, as one parcel. So when we are talking about really small tokens, legally, you really can't own that small piece of land. So the way it is done currently in India is that you create an SPV and then everybody becomes, a partner in that or a direct whatever. And then the land is bought inside that SPV. So they're working around the regulatory challenge. The other challenge is, and what I spoke about a little bit was, because there is no regulation, the institutional grade asset management infrastructure would be a challenge. There is a uncertainty about the code of conduct of how these companies who are managing this asset, because you need a lead investor coming in for tokenization of these funds. Although it makes that asset bankable and tradable, because you, let's say, bought just 1 lakh rupee share of that commercial asset, right? So you can trade it faster. There's still not that huge a market or these trading exchanges of real estate because there are no laws to support it. And eventually, I think Maharashtra, I know, is looking at, demat of property. So there is this thought process going on in government. And I think it'll be another 5 years before any law is enacted to that effect. Until then, there are workarounds like AIF and REIT and, SPVs to do things like that.
I have one common question for all of you. I would like to answer. I would like all of you to answer. Real estate for long has been male dominated. Of course, a lot of women also not working earlier. But today, what are the challenges? I mean, what keeps more women, or do women really actually stay away from the real estate sector, or are they getting more involved? All of you, I would like each one of you to take it in your own way. Chitra, you can start.
Okay. Well, to tell you very honestly, we've been talking of real estate being more like a male bastion. You would be very surprised to know when I joined architecture back in those days, in 80s, my class ratio was 14 girls to 1 boy. Okay. And since then, personally, if you ask me, I have never come across a situation where there was any kind of a bias or any kind of preference given to a male colleague in terms of whether it was salaries or whether it was in terms of work opportunities. No, I don't think I ever considered myself as in any way, inferior to a male, counterpart. And that's the kind of opportunity we have created wherever we worked also. So it's never been that why women have stayed away from real estate is something, I really find it a little difficult to answer that, because at least from the architecture planning perspective, I don't think we have ever come across a difference of, a male versus a female. It could be in, if one has to work on a construction site or a project, But I don't think so. I think women have always risen to the occasion. Whatever projects they are handling as architects, and I'm sure the other architect also on our team will agree that I don't think there has ever been a situation where you're backed off and said that, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot go because I can't
Really?
go. So I don't think so. We have always said, we've been happy to travel. I have in fact even visited power projects. I worked with when I was working with the Tatas. So I've even gone to their Jamshedpur projects. I've gone to their hydropower projects, and I would be the only lone female there with all the other male engineers who were there. But that never really, affected our, professional interactions or what they expected out of me as an architect there on the site. I don't think there was any difference at all. Well, that's what I would say. I don't think there is, to me.
So let me jump in to what Chitra is saying, and I agree with Chitra a lot. Yes, it is it is a male bastion. It is a boys' club. And I'm talking at entrepreneur level where you would, do acquisition and you would do all the kinds of other stuff, that usually the male members of the family do. But I think that if you're really good at what you do and you know what you're doing, people do tend to respect you. Initially, of course, there's a little resistance to say ki sahib nahi hai ka tumi tanna bolwa negotiation sati. It happens. And it's a fact. It happens because that's the society we are in, and and it's not just for construction. I would say it's true for any other industry, more so in construction because it has been run by the men. But I don't believe that there is no place. In fact, I feel that we have been encouraged and even really appreciated that, women entrepreneurs or, all women professionals at all levels within construction industry have a lot of support. There are forums, there are, mentors within this space like Mahi. There is, Credai Women's Wing. There are a lot of these associations that are now supporting women entrepreneurs to actually come forward in leadership roles. Yes, there are a lot of women in the industry, but let's talk about leadership roles where you are, sitting at the head of the table. And women inherently are shy to ask for their seat at the table. And therefore, not because they're incapable, not because they're not, or they can't do the job, right? But I think that is changing really fast and very rapidly. And you see the second gen coming in, strong and heavy. And you see a lot of women in real estate now.
So Jayashree, I'll just add a little more to what Darshana and Chitra have been saying. What I have realized over these 20 years of my career is that real estate has largely been three critical aspects. And I don't know if somebody has anything else to add to that, but I would say one would be design, one would be technology, and the third would be finance, right? Now, what's happened is that over the past earlier years, women have been largely restricted to just design because it's been more of, a sit at your place kind of a work. Gradually, there are women now who are moving on to get into technology, whether it's IT, non-IT, getting into finance. And hence, it's increasing the visibility, is giving a more, broader vision what a woman can actually do now. And that's how I think is where the real estate, is showing now more about women adding into it. Because earlier it used to be like, what I recollect was that early on, it used to be, you join architecture, working for a real estate, you would be, just into design, preparing drawings, and then after that possibly just work with a consultant, and just stick to it. There are women who are, as Devi and Darshana and all, have been into finance and into broader other aspects as well. So then I think that's how women are able to venture more into real estate and not stick to, one conventional aspect of the real estate.
Yeah, there have been enough women in the sales marketing. There have been women working in the legal aspects, and now also in the finance. So I think more or less we are there in all the verticals, which are there as part of the real estate.
Jayashree, I have a completely different view from this panel, to be honest. And this is coming from my experience. Of course, I've had like very extreme experiences as well. as recent as a month back, where in a meeting I was told, "Or dhande mein aurat ki baat nahi sunte," and I was the only one in the meeting room.
My God.
So these are extreme experiences which I've had, including one I remember where the client refused to take my visiting card, but kept talking to my junior male colleague when and I had to sit silent, and I was okay with it, so long as the work is getting done. So it is a man's world. Acceptability for women can be like, somebody used the word, there is resistance, and I completely agree. I think it was Darshana. There is a lot of resistance, and again I agree with Darshana that the moment you prove yourself, the thing for women is that until you prove that you have the knowledge and you have the capability, there is resistance. But that's not the case for a male colleague. For males, it's typically just assumed that, okay, this person is somebody I can talk business with. But when it comes to women, you have to first prove yourself, only then you can talk business. So unfortunately, that is still there. I do feel that in the investment field, in the investment segment, there aren't too many women, because most of the times I'm still the only woman today, especially in the sub-segment that I'm dealing with, which is industrial logistics, data centers, which are considered as unglamorous. There is a dearth of women talent as well. Even if I want to hire women, I don't get women. And that is a big challenge today. And I think we need to create that base. And it's a conscious effort for people, senior people in the industry, to put in the efforts to mentor and train women, hire, mentor, and train. But a lot of times what happens is that people don't want to put in the efforts to mentor and train. So they want to hire people with just the relevant experience who can come and get kicking. So that is a big challenge. And I definitely would want more women to come in, not just in a sales role or customer service role, but in different aspects, including technology. Like, how many ventures are founded by women today? Very, very few. I mean, I can't even think of any for that matter. So I feel that there's a conscious effort that needs to be made to get more women into the sector.
So I will just add on to what Devi said, and I completely relate to your experience, because I don't belong to real estate directly, but certainly belong to the technology side of real estate and to the buildings. So I remember incidents where, I was talking to a customer and customer said, "Madam, kisi technical आदमी को भेजिए." So that is a kind of mindset, and it will take a while. I agree, it will take a while to get that shift, and I think we are the people, we all lovely ladies are the one who are bringing in the change in this sector. So for sure there is a bias. For sure, I would say my experience has been that I have seen that real estate was not an obvious career choice a few years back, for sure, for many women. Things are changing. We see lots of women in technology sector, in sales and marketing. Earlier we had handful, especially at the leadership level, very, very handful. I remember, okay, to this, I remember a statistic I was going through, a couple of months back. Women in leadership in infrastructure domain, building infrastructure domain, at the base level, it's around 25 to 27%. But as you move up the ladder at the leadership level, it's hardly 13%, and this ratio of 25 to 13 is a global ratio. Probably in India, it would be a little more, little more wide apart, right? So there is more work to be done, for sure, because the mindset change will take time. Personally, I have never come across in the organization any kind of biases, but out there in the market, in the sector, there is certainly.
I'm so sorry. I don't think we have the time for questions, because my last panel, all the women are just, sort of logged in. But this was really a wonderful discussion, and I will keep in touch with all each one of you. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yashi.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice meeting all of you.
Thank you.
Same
Bye-bye.
here.
Women in construction, we are celebrating this event because we thought it only right that we find a way to connect with women in construction and real estate world who have through sheer grit and determination made it here. What we're looking for is a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. Today, in our third panel for the day, we will talk about building an inclusive environment for women to grow. We have women from all aspects of construction and real estate here, right from investment to projects to green construction. So we have a variety here. And right to design also. What we're going to look at is how can policies be formed around a gender balanced environment, talent building for more women in the company to become future leaders, and how can corporates support more women to learn the finer art of real estate and construction. I'll introduce my panelists today. So we have Dr. Ananya Gandotra, Head of Design, Engineering and Sustainability at Birla Estates. Dr. Ananya Gandotra, she provides strategic design direction and helps deliver real estate projects successfully. Prior to Birla Estates, she has held positions such as Head of Technical Service at Taj Group, Chief Architect at DLF, and Head Planning and Design at India Bulls. We have Binita Dalal, who head fundraising at Rustomjee. Binita joined the business in 2008 and has since been an integral part of finance management and fundraising for the Rustomjee Group. Prior to that, she gained experience from Godrej Properties and TCS. Her flair for finance brought her into fundraising, and in the short span of 7 years, she has raised more than rupees 7,500 crore for the group through debt and equity instruments. We have Hina Kamra, Executive VP and member investment team, Edelweiss Real Estate Opportunities Fund. It is part of a banking company with an estimated 10,000 employees and founded in 1995. They are part of the real estate team within the operations department. Hina graduated from the Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad, and is currently based in Mumbai. We have Meenakshi Cornelius, Head Human Resources, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Mauritius, GLL. She's a Green Belt certified with over 18 years of experience in human resource management, experience in implementation of HR strategy for organization clients with focus on retention and employee satisfaction, has good knowledge on UAE labor law, including setting up and implementing HR strategy for key clients in Dubai. We have Menik Bazumdar, MD for GBCI India, and also the Senior Vice President for US GBC. She is responsible for technical adaptation and customization of the portfolio of rating systems of GBCI for the Asia Pac. She is also responsible for customer coordination, education, training, and developing market mechanisms for adoption of the tools and rating systems for the region. An architecture graduate and a building technologies specialist, Willie has more than 2 decades of experience in the field of energy and environment with a focus on sustainable development of habitats. We have Rajni Sinha, Chief Economist and National Director, Knight Frank. She holds a strong track record with diverse experience and has served in senior management positions in large organizations such as Kotak Mahindra Bank, JM Morgan Stanley, Dun & Bradstreet, as well as Aditya Birla Management Corporation. She is adept at motivating and leading large teams and is largely a team player. Shweta Mahajan, Director and Head North and East Consulting Services, Cushman & Wakefield, has 14 years of professional experience in the field of real estate advisory services. It has secured end-to-end managed and executed multiple real estate strategies, valuations, best use feasibility, location advisory, and market assessment assignments across major Indian cities and abroad, which is Nepal, Mauritius, and Bangladesh. So that's my lovely panel for today. And before we start, I'll not confine my questions mainly to like women-centric or women-oriented. I have kept it mainly to sort of the work or the field that you are, ensconced in. Let me start with Dr. Gandotra. Design. Design is essentially the key to any good project. Also, if you have a good design, you have a strong design, you have a detailed design in place, your project completion is assured. How do you collaborate with your team to package all this?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Jayashree. Thank you for a very nice introduction to me and the fellow panelists. To answer your question, I would say everything. The answer is in design is, of course, a great design, but also collaboration. So for me, there are multiple ways that one should collaborate. One is, of course, under the umbrella of design, where you're making your core design. how well you are, seamlessly, coordinating and collaborating with various different consultants, and, trying to, kind of create a design which is more integrated and cohesive. So you should, as a manager or as a senior person, you should ensure that your consultant team or the teams in your place are working in a very systematic manner. They speak to each other very often, and they are kind of, understanding the project in detail. The issues happen if the design is developed and there are gaps in understanding across various different levels. Could it be the operations? It could be the costing. So you need to ensure that the design is well established and well understood. But to add that, for the design people, especially on the design planning side, for me, this is more of a somewhat of a planning question as well. You need to kind of be aware of your project trackers. You need to understand what the cycle of the slabs are going to be, when you're going to start hitting ground, what is the formwork strategy, what will be the logistical requirements for various different items. So essentially, for various packages that you're designing, you should be well aware of this when it is getting plugged in with your operations, with your contractor. What is the contracting strategy? Be well aware of how your tender is structured, and whether it is going to be later on shop drawings are made, or whether you can make few things up front. For example, in our project, one of our key projects, we are integrating the builder's work drawings way ahead in the schedule. So, for example, the delays can happen with shafts, cutouts, and loads of other things which are not predicted in early days. So, in case you can work on that kind of a format where you can have as much information detailed out with specifications, and had multiple rounds, for costing, so you don't run on cost overruns, which can also delay your project. So if you have had the series of rigor in costing, understanding of specifications, and understanding the various different other things like documentation, the quality of documents are also very well. It's very important. Last but not the least, we can have saving in sharing or the communication that we are establishing. For example, a lot of information is transferred by email. So if you can stop that and reduce it to base minimum, that people are spending more time on emails, rather go to systems like Aconex, where RFIs, where multiple agents who are working on the production of the drawings as well as on execution, they can be kind of on board together. So those are the things, to my mind, that can ease risks of a time overrun on the project.
Millie, coming to you. You have played a vital role in urban transportation and smart cities. How can India buck up to make it a reality?
I think, when we talk about sustainability and particularly in context of buildings and urbanscape, there has to be an integrated thinking and understanding of how each of the components of, say, the urban space contribute to each other. For example, if you are talking about, say, a green building, if it is located outside the territory of the city, one would be commuting miles to be able to approach that. So all the benefits that you gain by, say, designing or constructing a sustainable space would be lost. So over the years now, the concept of sustainable design is being thought of in a more inclusive way. And also particularly the pandemic has given us a lot of lessons on resilience building through community and neighborhood planning. So a few of the things that we are encouraging at a global level is the concept of compact and connected communities, where at an urbanscape, not only buildings become sustainable, but they are also connected to each other. And the people who are residing there have access to, the daily requirements, maybe work, places also close by, safety of citizens, citizens of all age group, be it senior citizens, children, everybody is taken care of. as well as, concepts around transit-oriented development to be able to ease out, use of cars for small purposes. So as a rating system, because we manage the lead cities and communities rating framework also globally, we are seeing that, increasingly these concepts of walkable neighborhoods, compact neighborhoods, etc., are becoming more and more profound. And hence, in concept of smart cities as well as, integrated urban planning framework, I think it's very important for us to look at these things in an integrated way. And then only we'll be able to succeed in achieving the overall sustainability goals that we have for communities and cities.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Vinita, okay, I'm sorry. Vinita has raised more than $1.5 billion for the group. Okay. So, you know where to go if you need assistance now. Okay. And of course, she's got into financial services business as a group and has founded K Capital, right? That's how it is, Vinita? Right.
It's Mount K Capital.
Mount K Capital. Okay, I'm so sorry. Vinita, with the pandemic behind us, investments, for a long time, banks stayed away from the real estate sector. Maybe rightly so or whatever. But of course, a lot of projects are on hold. Now, with the pandemic behind us, real estate is the only segment that is actually taking off. Infrastructure projects and real estate. As your company, how are you looking at new projects?
So I think, firstly, happy Women's Day to everyone on the panel.
Thank you.
It's good to have all of you all and to share the panel with all of you distinguished women and super achievers. Wish you guys the very, very best always. I think the pandemic has been like probably an eye-opener for everyone. I think all businesses in the last 2 years have learned to do themselves. The way we eat, the way we commute, the way we communicate. Imagine we're on a conference which is online rather than something which would have all met up physically and met face to face. Has all changed, and it's not different for the real estate sector. Whether it is us or whether it is any other developer in the country or in the world, I think the entire aspect of convenience in design, something that we as a group have been, always propagating and always being very mindful of, has come in a very large way. We saw the pandemic where we as a group, being in gated communities, were probably a little far ahead in the curve and got a lot of, I wouldn't want to call it accolade because the pandemic has been a tough time for everyone and humanity literally came together and stood for each other. But our community stood together. And that was something that was really heartwarming to see. So I think the way we design our homes has definitely changed. The way we construct has changed. I mean, the smartphone revolution that if you can see, today schools are online. So the fact that your child itself has a smartphone in his hand, everyone on our sites has a smartphone as well. And with technology coming in right from, using BIM on, so we are the first probably in the country, first company in the country which is BIM compliant, and all our designs are right now on BIM, and we're totally on BIM, and we've been in SAP for the last 8 years. So we've been a little ahead on the curve as far as technology is concerned, as well as cloud data repositories for everything that we were doing. So I think the way we do our businesses has changed, and the way we construct has changed, the way we design has changed. Now, earlier you would all look at small homes, but in the pandemic, we've been able to see the demand for large homes coming in a very large way, especially in the MMR sector. And we've been actually seeing people who wanted to buy a 1 BHK now starting to look at 2 BHKs for their needs, because they feel that you need that extra space for work from home and even for your kids to do schooling from home if need be in future. So those are the kind of changes that have come in. And as far as design is concerned, I think as a group, we've been extremely certain that we would want to get into ESG in a very large way and create buildings which are sustainable, even in the residential sector. Not a single project of ours has been something that we've given with 4 walls. We don't believe in that concept. It's always been a little more than what it is, because a house or the real estate sector has the good fortune of being a very emotional connect for everyone's life. You may not really remember your car or the way you commute, but you'll always remember your house that you live in, because those are the memories that you grew up with. So we have the good fortune of being part of an industry which has a very huge emotional connect to all our lives. So I think we've always ensured that our homes keep that emotional quotient going for everyone that lives in them. And we're really committing to ESG and sustainable buildings in a very large way. In fact, the fund that we're going to be raising now in financial services is also going to be committed to the ESG and environment-friendly materials to be used in our products as well.
Rajini, you come from a background where in-depth research and sharp analysis is key, and more the need to be more accurate, to facts. And there are tools available, So can you give us a glimpse into your work and ways, into how you stay as close to the truth as possible?
Firstly, thank you, Jayashree, for having me in this forum. And happy Women's Day to all the panelists and to our viewers. Now, coming back to your question, Jayashree, if I look at research, it's a combination of various aspects that we look at. So it's a lot of data gathering, data crunching, data analysis. It's also a lot of understanding of all stakeholders' view. While a researcher forms his or her own view based on the data and analysis, but it's also very important to get the stakeholders' feel. How are they looking at the situation? How do they view the outlook? So when we look at research, we look at all these aspects. So it's not just a lot of data crunching and analysis. It's also a lot of interaction with different stakeholders, be it developers, be it investors, be it lenders, to understand how everyone is looking at the ground reality. So now coming to this question of how do I get my research as close to the reality? So that's where it's a challenge, because as you all would be aware of, data in real estate sector is a challenge. So like, when you are doing research in many other sectors or in many other countries, like for real estate sector, US, there's a lot of data available by the government. So is the case for many of the European countries. Whereas for India, there is no official data release as such. And hence what you will see is that every research body is using their own way, their own system of collecting the data. And hence there would be a discrepancy in the data which you would see by various IPCs or other research bodies. So that's a challenge. And that's where, the way we have been differentiating is that now with RERA coming into the picture, and now with IGR data also available, what we have started doing is something called data crawling, through which we are from the back end, we are extracting the data, the registration data from the IGR website, from the RERA website, so that we get as close to the reality as possible. And this is something which was not happening earlier. This is something we have started doing now, which is getting our data closer to the ground reality. So that's how I would say we are trying to get it closer to the reality. Just one more aspect is that, when I said we talk to a lot of stakeholders to get an understanding of what's happening in the market. Now that's again somewhere we have to use our own filter. Because, when we talk to stakeholders, many a times they talk about things which they want us to write about, which they would want us to believe. But that's where we as researchers use our own understanding and intelligence to filter out what exactly is happening in the market, and then portray it and analyze it the way we feel is appropriate. So that's how we try to get it close to the reality.
Hina, continuing the same vein, what I asked Vineeta first. You look at real estate also more realistic, and you need to give it a really hard look. What are some of the factors that you consider for assured returns, and it can go? I understand it can go as high as 16 to 19%. So how do you look at it?
So Jayashree, see, real estate is also like any other lending business. And the perspective on real estate also, when you're looking at debt, has to be that of what it is. The perspective has to be in the rest of the financial sector. But there's a critical, difference that exists. Like Rajni is also saying, data is not readily available. So suppose I wanted to build a corporate finance book. A corporate finance book you can easily build for listed companies because it's all published data pertaining to the borrower also. Here, the ground level reality is very, very important, which comes more from informal sources and connect points rather than from the formal channels. So if you're looking at broadly, what are the things we look at? Execution capability is very, very critical. So, the developer should have delivered at least 1 million, 2 million square feet or 3 million square feet. If you're looking at smaller developers, then in that case, there has to be some kind of a convincing argument that they will be able to complete the project. At times, you might have professionals who've turned entrepreneurs who have this kind of experience in their professional capacity. So there, you can actually take those calls on the execution side. Then again, what is most important is the selling skills. Do they have the ability to sell the project? If they can't sell, they can't pay back my money. As simple as that. And of course, what is also critical is their financial closure of the project. Now, what is financial closure? Basically, you're trying to ensure that the entire cost of construction is being provided for, either from sales that have already happened or from what you are providing. Now, the perspective or the calls that we are taking today, post the pandemic, is very, very different from the calls that we were taking prior to the NBFC crisis between 16 to 18. There were a lot of, because there was a bull run that was happening. So a lot of calls could get taken because, you kind of sailed through. But post 2018, we've seen that the sector has gone through a lot of challenges. So it's not just the pandemic. Actually, the pandemic gave it a lot of impetus, if I was to put it like that. But between 16 and 18, there were 4 critical factors which led to the real estate sector, especially on the financing side, and of course, the other, the ground reality also, going into a real tailspin. The first was the demonetization, which happened in late 2016. Then in first half of 2017 came both RERA and GST. And the nail in the coffin was the NBFC crisis in September 2018. Now, all these 4 things put together actually stopped the flow of funds to the real estate sector. The movement between the formal and the informal channels stopped. There was no working capital. Developers didn't have access to pre-sales funding, which they earlier used to all the informal channels that existed. So while we all agree that in the long term, all these developments are in the interests of the real estate sector, but in the short term, that the pain that they caused was something very, very challenging. Post-COVID, with all the stimulus that has happened and all the regulatory impetus that has been given in terms of stamp duty cards, and of course, in any case, the affordability index across cities has gone up. You're again able to take calls, and the signs of revival are quite broad-based in the sector. So having said that, is capital still available? The kind of capital that is required? No, it is still not available. So whether you're talking about it from the fund side or NBFCs have more or less disappeared. NBFC as a platform is not happening anymore. Or whether you're talking about the bank side. You are saying what you are seeing today is that access to capital in this market is largely dominated by grade A developers. Grade B developers are still struggling. Yes, some of them who were unleveraged are able to still organize the funding for themselves, but other players are still struggling. Distressed assets are still struggling.
Thank you, Hira. That was very insightful. Meenakshi, coming to you, you are part of an HR, you are HR for GLL across countries. What is the formula that you follow for your colleagues, and in terms of empathizing or like you wrote in an article about inclusion, How do you look at that?
Thanks, Jayashree, and lovely to be part of the panel. And there were very good insights all the panelists shared. I think I'm more aware of the real estate side today. So I think on the inclusion and generally overall, I think connecting with people in our industry, which is more on the real estate side, it's always a tough thing, right? How do you engage? How do you build cultures? Because let's take an example of a construction site. You don't have people sitting in one office like a lot of IT organizations, BPOs. People are spread across. You have different backgrounds from where people come in. You have a lot of vendors, partners who work together along, multiple organizations actually coming together. So I think engagement and building a culture of inclusion or driving any kind of behaviors and cultures is very, very difficult, I would say, and across countries far more. But I think there are ways and means which we have figured out on how we can do that better. Sorry. From a people's standpoint, I think there are 3-4 things which work well. One is engagement. How do you really engage with them? And build behaviors and cultures? How do you recognize people for doing the right things or doing the right kind of deliverable from their work standpoint? And how do we give them opportunities to grow? Okay, which again, you can link back to, even women in the real estate, side or construction side, or, how do they get enough opportunities to grow? And how do we bring in different communities, to be inclusive and build that culture that everybody grows? So those are the 3 key pillars I personally feel are the ones we need to look at. And I think in the last 2 years, what we have learned more than ever before, and it has come early to us. If COVID wouldn't have come, we wouldn't have seen that coming so quickly. Technology plays a big role. So I think, connecting with, various people across different cultures, countries, one, understanding their cultures and the sentiments, what a person in one country or one region would feel or understand is very different for another country, or let's take any Asian country which you have, apart from India. So I think for far and foremost is understanding the different cultures. It is not a cookie cutter solution that you think about one piece and you just replicate it across different cultures and countries. So that I think that's one. And I think it's about creating forums, reaching out to people on the ground, the last person in the line, to really build and make them understand, what we're trying to drive, engage with them, take feedback from them, and we've done different kind of surveys, and most of the organizations do as well. Do a pulse check with people to understand whether they are enjoying the cultures, what you're trying to drive. Recognize people who are leading the inclusion part and building that kind of a culture, because recognition is important. And again, going back to the technology piece, to do that in a scale like what we work in this industry, it has to be technology. It can't be manual cards or manual thank yous. It has to be technology adoption, where you can reach to the last leg or the last person in the queue to really manage that. And I think the most important thing is, how do you bring this together? And important is to connect the dots with the people, that what we feel as a vision, whether they are also feeling the same through the pulse checks and the engagement service you have. Those are the few things I would say, it is important. And I think nothing works better, Jayashree, than speaking to people. You can do anything. You can put policies, you can put different various initiatives, but till the time the leadership team doesn't connect and everybody going all over the place to really understand the nuances on the ground, you can never drive and build inclusive cultures, etc. So it is important when you're doing this, build specific policies. It can be, working, for working women, there are a lot of things like flex flexible working hours, building trainings and learning interventions so that people start looking at, how they need to overcome some of the, unconscious biases, what they have, wherein it limits the inclusion part for us. So those are the few thoughts I have. Happy to share anything else you would like me to speak.
I'll come back to you, Meenakshi. Shweta, come to you. You have worked across verticals, managing funds, managing, the equity and, sort of valuation. What are some of the ways to stay contemporary, considering the variable world of real estate?
Thank you, Jayashree, first of all, for inviting on this esteemed panel, and a very happy Women's Day to everyone on the panel and to the entire fraternity. Coming back to your question, Jayashree, so I'll talk it on behalf of the service fraternity, which I represent. So as an organization, as a service fraternity, we represent end-to-end property cycle from conceptualization to property operations. And there are 4 themes or the areas which have collectively across different principal businesses have enabled the professionals and the business lines to stay contemporary and relevant to their clients. Very clearly, it is about technology adaptation, and it has been spoken extensively by the peers over on the panel as well. So it is whether it is to do with the professional adaptation of the softwares, cloud-based management tools that enable more efficient delivery to some principal functions like the property management or the project management, to adaptation of more collaborative and client engagement tools. So technology adaptation at a professional level, at a service level, at an organizational level is something which has been a must in the changing variant of real estate landscape. The second critical element is service integration. So we have seen a clear shift over last 15 years of my own association with the organization and this industry. We have seen a clear shift in the needs of the client from an engagement-based approach to an account-based approach, where the service integration, even within the principal businesses, is the need of the hour. All the more with the changing character of the client base itself. Now we are moving more from just a handful of large organizations to a lot of MSMEs and the startups, which seek just a single vendor partnerships for every problem of theirs when they come to see a problem statement like real estate. So that's another layer which has pushed organizations' functions to engage or collaborate more than ever before. The clients are seeking turnkey solutions in every problem statement they come out with. The third important element has been our commitment to sustainability and environment. While this has also been a theme which has been discussed across the board, and as a service delivery firm, we do consider it as our responsibility to imbibe these offerings as a part of our planning exercises, as a part of our implementation programs as well, because buildings, built up environment, and this fraternity accounts for over 40% of the carbon emissions across the world. So there is an element of ESG, environment, sustainability and planning, which is being consciously discussed, imbibed as a part of all the service solutions now at organizational level. Because we are talking on a Women's Day, and not just being biased towards the gender, but yes, inclusiveness of all sorts, be it gender inclusiveness. We see now women being a part of almost all the service verticals. In the initial years of my own career, they have been confined to specific functions, including the one I belong to, but now their role is becoming critical, and I see a face from almost every fraternity on this panel as well. To age inclusiveness, we are becoming a lot more receptive to all age groups, bringing a lot of diversity of thought and talent. So hierarchies are no longer a function primarily of the age and experience, while their importance cannot be underpinned, but we are more we are more acceptable to even the younger age groups taking leadership roles, and also the geographical diversity which has been triggered by this pandemic and has pushed organizations to think of flexibility and convenience, which the geographical diversity essentially bring into. And as certain principal functions like my own, which I represent, there's a conscious effort to ensure that there is a very diverse set of backgrounds that are forming a part of the service delivery groups, be it the economist or the accountants or the architects or somebody with a construction experience, so that we are able to think through all the facets of the property cycle while delivering the solutions to our clients. So inclusiveness and a conscious adaptation to inclusiveness across all parameters, including but not limited to gender, has definitely helped adapt to the variable nature of the real estate, Jayashree. Yeah.
Thank you, Shweta. Millie, coming to you, you are very passionate about green projects and sustainability. A lot of developers, though they say that, okay, we are going green, or they may not get themselves certified, but they talk about going green. How can this be, looked at more minutely and on a larger scale?
I think, Jayashree, whenever we talk about green or sustainability, there are two things which I have noticed, over the years, that it is definitely an additional or an afterthought. It is never considered, I'm not saying for all businesses or developers, but usually it's an afterthought and it is not considered as a part of mainstream. And whenever there is a fund crunch or, cost cutting, the first acts that happens is on the sustainability parameters. Particularly, I have seen a lot in the government contracts where there is a upper cap, say, on the, the cost of construction. Then they would try to cut on, say, the cost of insulation, will not look into the details, or, try to cut cost on the high performance glass, so on and so forth. So if we are not considering, we have made large commitments, say, to the globe in terms of net zero, in terms of reducing carbon intensity emissions, etc. But if we are not considering these minutely, that how each of the components, say, in architecture or construction, lead to the overall emission saving, then we can never get there. It will just remain, from one target to another, and we will not achieve it. Also, I find one thing missing is that, people who are users of sustainable buildings, they are not, aware of what benefits it accrues to them. I'll give you one small example, because when we are talking about sustainability, it also has a huge impact on health and productivity and wellness of people who occupy sustainable buildings. Recently, we were conducting a study on indoor environmental quality assessment in green buildings and green certified buildings. And we found in majority of the spaces, though they are certified to green, but they are not maintaining it to be green. And people inside are suffering, in terms of, suppose if you have a higher carbon dioxide level, then obviously people will, have headaches, they'll feel sleepy, they will not be productive enough. If there is not enough light, then the productivity will suffer. But people were not aware that their building was green and they need to maintain it in a way. So I think, data visualization and visualization of all these aspects is very critical to not only design sustainable buildings, but also to maintain it, in the long term. And we also, as users, should be aware that it is good for us. It is not somebody else's work that we are trying to save the world. If we are green, then it's good for us. So education, awareness generation, is also very critical. And I think the younger generation is much more aware and they are much more progressive and they think differently. And also what I think is that, as we are progressing more towards, and we are having more inclusive processes, let's say in construction sector, in office, etc., people, the younger generation particularly, they'll demand, spaces which are healthy for them. So it is important that businesses and people gear up to that and not only design green buildings, but also maintain them. So these are some of the things that, we need to tie in the whole process to make it work well for all of us.
Can I add something over here?
Yeah,
on the financing side, especially in terms of the international financing, we are seeing a lot of push on ESG. So, when we are doing fundraising,
correct.
So it's ESG compliant funds who are able to raise money. So from there, the pressure will obviously go on to the investee companies, and that push will also happen.
Yes. But ma'am, also, as you know, what I mentioned is it's very important that data tracking and, data visualization is very important. So monitoring, measurement, maintenance are very critical aspects if you have to really get the benefits, from the ESG funds and what they want to achieve. This is the missing piece that we find, that there are KPIs maybe at the design stage, but in the operations, they may be, missing holistically.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when we're talking to investee companies, they're just not geared for it.
Yeah.
So probably some of the grade A companies still might be geared, or they might have started moving towards it. But if you're talking about grade B developers, no, we don't have that focus as of now.
Correct.
Ananya, coming to you, how do you, now you spoke about incorporating green in design. How do you look at, you spoke about earlier also. How do you stay contemporary when it comes to approaching design for projects?
I think, Jayashree, people have touched base upon technology. I think I just want to add on to that as well. Technology, honestly, in the real estate, I've seen it over the last year, is now like on a very big upswing. Many of the projects which were in the cycle of sales, for example, and marketing, that was like, during the COVID, you could see that the sales and marketing went up extensively on the technology, because the people weren't traveling to sites. You had already a project which is RERA certified, and you need to launch it. So people had to upgrade to technology instantaneously, and also the customers, they got, so therefore you see there were great sales happening during the COVID in real estate. So that was largely, technology played a very large role. Now, from my point of view, from the design and construction and so on and so forth, most of the education, like the design education, the schools are on the technology platform, and that is going across to the various consultants who are in the field of designing buildings of whatever nature. But what happens, the developers and on the receiving side of the documentation, they haven't really adapted to technology. So one thing that I feel that the people who are working on the client side should also catch on to technology very fast. They should be privy to various different softwares they are using. Or, for example, when they're working with specialists, now loads of various different specialists work on different softwares which value add onto the design and the performance of the buildings. So gone are the days that you would only look up to the architect to be designing everything for you, be it the facade, be it this and that. So that's not happening today. You need to know, you need to go to the facade specialist, you need to go through various cycles of facade designing, the engineering side of it. It's not just the look and feel factor that are there. So largely for me, technology does not just put in a great design, be it on the parametrics of it or whatever. It also is very essential to understand and simulate the performance of the building. And thereby, if you can value add and create great environment for people, not just like, it shouldn't be post commissioning that people understand how the sunlight or the daylight or the heat transfers or so on and so forth is happening. You should be able to understand as a developer, as a responsible developer, what that project is going to bring and what the impact of the project is going to be on the overall environment. I think Millie comes from background of sustainability. I completely agree. Maintenance of how do you monitor your buildings, for example? How is the metering being done? So technology is there in every aspect. One needs to know it and implement it. And last but not the least, I think which should catch up in the Indian real estate scenario for most of the developers is to understand the project life cycle of the materials that you're using, of the entire building that you are constructing. What is not just the carbon footprint management, but also the project life cycle of one project which you're bringing into this world. So those are the things that I think technology can leverage, besides, of course, various other aspects of simulating for example, decongesting the reinforcement by being able to simulate it early on into the stage. There are various aspects. So if we are friendly to technology, we get people and specialists to work with us, I think there is a long way the real estate is going to be going, and definitely we'll benefit from it. So thank you, Jayashree.
Vinita, coming to you, Ananya spoke about technology in project life cycle. So when you are looking at investments, you're looking at infusion of your funds into real estate, how do you look at meeting investors' objectives?
I think with the last decade, investors have also matured, which is something that is good to see today. I think people have seen too many cycles, like how Hina mentioned. There was RERA, there was DMOT, there was GST, all of that came in, which was good for the sector, but also changed the way sector does business. And even today, the advent of GST causes about 18% as a direct increase in costs. So investors have matured, they have seen cycles, and in terms of expectations, I don't think when you sit with investors today, they have an expectation of a 25% IRR and above return. They've all understood that real estate is a sector which gives you return higher than definitely the mutual fund sector, and definitely gives you higher return than most of other asset classes. Definitely not as much as startups if you get lucky in a unicorn cycle. But I think real estate is today a preferred asset class for investments to kind of put your portfolio or diversify your portfolio in. Also, with the advent of the REITs and the Indian markets seeing 3 successful REITs getting listed, investors have got their way around expecting the right return. So when you sit with investors today, I think mid to late teens is what they're looking at as far as returns are concerned. And it is something which is doable in this sector if you get your product right. Apart from everything that Hina mentioned in terms of pedigree, experience, new guys, stability, I think what's really important is your product and your location. If you get your product right, I think the rest is something that can be done. And it's very important to understand the regulations that run in real estate. It's very easy to kind of put money or underwrite a risk. But if you don't understand the regulation that works on this risk, no one will be able to get their return. I think that's where maximum investors have burnt their hands, and maximum fund managers have also burnt their hands, is because they underwrote a risk without the right regulatory experience. And that's what's caused a lot of pain in the investor market. So I think 2 parts, apart from what Hina said. One is your product, and second is your regulatory risk clearance. 2 things you really, really need to have vision. Need clarity on before you look at investing with anyone.
Thank you. Hina, do you want to take off from there? Tell us about some of the disciplines that real estate, the sector, whether it's commercial, residential, retail, or anything, need to bring in so as to avail of funds faster?
See, basically, I think our basic challenge is the data. So what Rajni has also dwelt upon, but that's an industry-wide problem that exists. If the data was readily available, see, a lot of developers still have 2 books that they maintain. So unfortunately, what happens is that when you're evaluating a proposal, you will have to go with a lot of information that comes from market sources, which can't really be validated. Now, if I was to, go at the real estate cycles over the last 20 to 30 years, I would say that we've really matured. If you're talking about, let's say, pre-liberalization in 1992, at that time, there was absolute chaos, and, there was no financial, you can say, there was no institutional funding which was accessible to the developers. So they had access only to the private market. And then liberalization happened, and some things started happening between 92 and 2005, where banks started taking some limited exposures. You had HDFC which came into play, and NHP was there. But they were still doing things in a very small manner. It was only post 2005 when FDI in real estate was actually permitted that the next you can say level of institutionalization actually came into play. That would be the first time that the developers felt the need to have more professional setups, more professionals like Vinita would have joined on the financing side. And obviously the kind of funding structures that were available in the market, those also underwent a change. And so consequently, you had larger projects which could be executed just because there was more institutionalization that is happening. But we still have a long way to go especially in the B2C segment, which is residential. We still have a long way to go. Of course, in commercial sector, which is more largely B2B kind of a segment, the product is standardized. So hence the financial structures that can be imposed on the product itself are very, very standardized. And hence you have something like REITs. So I don't think India is today ready for something called a residential REIT, because the design or every product will be different. So every grade A product will not have the same specs. It'll have different specs. Whereas that is more streamlined in commercial and to a large extent in retail also. So like I said, a long way to go, but we are well on our way.
Rajni and Shweta, I wanted to take up this question. I mean, what Hina just spoke about, considering, how research in real estate, how has it changed and what are the innovations that have come so that, you can keep up with, getting the funding right or getting everything in place. I want Rajni and Shweta to talk on this.
So very quickly on the research side, like you've been discussing, data availability is a big issue, and that's a challenge we have all been dealing with. So that's where somewhere where we are trying to get some innovation into place. Like I mentioned before, we have been doing this exercise called data crawling, which basically involves through technology getting the backend data from the IGR and RERA website. So we can't get closer to the reality than that. So, whatever data which was available so far with the research, it was mainly, if you see, it was a 6 monthly basis or quarterly basis, and based on different surveyors, and hence the data would be different. But now if you're getting the actual registration data from the IGR website or from the RERA website, the sales data, then that's the closest we can get to the reality. And that's what we have started doing through data crawling. So we have now started releasing this data to our reports.
Shweta?
Yeah, Jayashree. So I completely corroborate what Rajni said. From the major evolution is essentially the participation of the regulator, which makes it kind of mandatory for the market participants to report the data, because it is not just the mammoth task of collecting it through the surveyors. It is also the credibility, which is extremely questionable, and has been a matter of inconsistencies for decades together. So RERA, in fact, has been the major shift, or the major what we call as a disruption for the industry. While it took us almost 70 years for us to have this regulator in place, but it is the public intervention or the regulatory intervention that probably is the start point to ensure that we not just have data, we have the credible data, because there is a high level of accountability attached and the penalty attached to underreporting or not rightful reporting. Other than the platforms, which is an organization most of us are now adopting beyond putting our own manpower on the ground, it's a lot of subscription platforms that have come up, which are playing the role of an integrator to ensure that all the registrations across different organized formats of real estate, like offices, retail, are accessible. While there are a lot of confidentiality and proprietary issues attached to it, but there are a lot of integrators which have evolved into this industry, which are kind of bridging this gap so that the the opportunity cost of the service providers like us, which are a little more focused towards client solutioning delivery, is also kind of optimized and spending a significant amount of data hunting in the field, which continue to stay instrumental, but they are acting as a key enablers. And while we are still principally away from where our developed nations are, but there is a head start in form of regulator playing a very critical role in this space.
I will ask. I have one common question for each one of you. Women in real estate. We're talking about women in construction. Do you think that a lot of women stay away from real estate either deliberately or maybe planned or strategically, or a lot of women are entering real estate but may not have leadership positions? So, what is each one's personal experience and take on it? Anybody could start.
So I'd like to take this one. I've worked for 25 years now across banking and financial sector. So when I came into real estate around 11 years ago, I was honestly very surprised after working in commercial banks and institutions to find that in the real estate world, you didn't have too many women in leadership positions. And even today, when I go to most parties, you'll hardly have 2 or 3 women who are there at a very senior level. Now, I understand that things have really changed, because if I talk to older colleagues who've been around since the 70s, 80s, they talk about going to conferences where you would not have anyone else besides them. So things have changed since then. But I think globally also real estate is a more or less a male-dominated bastion, except probably in the functions of probably product design or sales and marketing. On the financing side, definitely we find it's a male-dominated bastion. Whether you're talking about, I guess, the developer side or whether you're talking about the institution side.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So just to add on to what Hina said and to your question. So I've been fortunate to kind of be part of the industry since I was a child. I remember going for our first Bhumi Pujan when I was a kid. I was like 7 years old, and I fell in love with the entire hustle and bustle on site. And because I'm fortunate to be part of an organization that I call family, I think it was a bit different for me. But I will say this, that the real estate sector is extremely male dominated, not because women don't like the sector, because women are known for their creativity, and there's a lot of creativity that comes in a real estate sector. This industry is something which builds monuments that last for centuries. It's the only industry which kind of leaves something on the face of this earth which lasts for long, and it's very creative in the way it's done. But I think it's always had this image of being the bad boy sector, or it's had this image of being extremely, I would say, notorious throughout the years and in the way it was perceived, which is thankfully changing today. That is one of the reasons why people have stayed away from this industry. And today I see women heading organizations of real estate. I see women heading key positions, including the construction and the engineering part of the business. And I see it changing a lot, including in terms of regulatory and being part of the entire licensing and approvals. I see women taking a lead role in that as well. I have been part of conferences where probably there were 2 women in the room, and I've always been part of forums where, there's probably, I'm the only girl in that entire forum with all the men. But I must say this for women who want to kind of, make it in life, not just in real estate. Never look at any industry or anything as part of a differentiation in gender. We're all equal. You can get it. Someone else can go and get it. At the end of the day, it's about getting your goals done. It doesn't matter what you are at the end of the day. It's about your focus of where you want to get in life. So I think that's what works more than anything. And that's what brings the confidence of being a woman in a room full of men and still achieving and getting to great success in what you want to do.
Thanks. Thank you, Vinita.
Yeah, even I would like to, resonate what Vinita just said. It's about your capability. Like even when I started in this space, of course, sustainability is, I would say, some kind of a, overlay as a separate segment where, and it's fairly gender neutral per se, but like all, other fields, it is pretty male dominated. But for me, I have worked with several, male colleagues all my life. At peer level, at leadership level, at junior level, but it's about the capability. I mean, I have been able to, and also I think for women, we are able to do a lot of multitasking, we have empathy and certain other qualities which are very, very, kind of central to a woman. So I think we bring in that perspective, particularly in my colleagues, I have seen, they feel very comfortable, because not only in terms of technical work, but I am able to guide them through, even navigating their personal and professional challenges at equal pace. That certainly is, and that's again a human quality. So I don't think, it really matters if you are a woman or.
I have a question for everyone. I mean, for those of us who are professional and probably not a part of the family-run businesses, because there the challenges would be slightly different, I guess. Glass ceiling is something that women across different sectors have faced from time to time. What would be the experience of the panel over here? If I may, Jayashree.
Of course.
And what can we do about it so that, the younger kids who are joining this sector and other sectors, they don't have to face the challenges that we did, because obviously we are not facing the challenges that our seniors did.
Yes.
How can we make the change come faster? Because if you look at numbers, real estate, I was looking at some data, we have women participation in labor force is hardly 10%. Right? If you're talking about banking and financial services, it's around 25%. But in no sector does it in India go beyond 25 in any case, which is very low. So, which is really very, very low. If you're talking about senior management positions in Fortune 500 in India, the companies, I guess it's just 5 to 10% again. That's very low. So, what should a group like this be doing to provide enablers for the next generation?
I think I could take that question. I think it's not just leadership position in real estate sector, women not being there in real estate sector. I think it's everywhere, except for some of the sectors like banking and financial services. Except for that, in most of the sectors, you find very few women in leadership position. And I think for that, the most critical aspect is to support women at the middle level. Because everywhere you see in all the industries, there are a lot of women at the entry level. It's at the middle level when women are struggling with, managing their family and other duties. It's at that stage that many women drop out from the workforce. So it's very critical that if organizations support women at that level, it's only then will these women at the middle level reach up to leadership positions. So I think that is what is required to have more women at the leadership positions. And many of the bigger organizations.
Right. And obviously, probably you will be the expert on data, but I came across some interesting numbers. Out of the total literate workforce that exists in India, undergraduate, in terms of undergraduate degrees, 53% is women. If you're talking about MPhils, it's around 70% women. PhD is around 42% women. But if you're talking about participation in the labor force at the lower levels, it's just 20% women. And again, a gender pay gap, women typically, again, this was a report that I had come across, women get 60 to 70% of what their male colleagues are getting. And this is across different levels of management. Around 65 to 70% of what the men are getting. So is there something different that could be doing? One, of course, is what you said, of course, that at the mid-level is when they drop off, because they need some inclusive policies, they need some flexible working hours. They need more understanding, more empathy. But probably some mentorship programs by other women colleagues, and why not male colleagues to provide mentorship programs?
I just want to make one point over here that we need to be mindful that as an industry, we are still a heterogeneous group of organizations from the likes of one, say some of us like Rajni and me belong, I'm going to say many more in the panel. They have been like international firms which already had certain standards and the culture which they have brought to the country, and that had made our growth, I'm going to say the experience quite favorable for us to propagate this industry. But this may or may not be the situation for a large part of the other industry peers. There is a large fraternity of developers. While some have taken that leap, we still have a sizable share, which is still local, still controlled in a very patriarchal manner. So this entire fraternity, which is very heterogeneous, needs to consciously rise up to this entire debate of while some are more keen to talk a little more on gender equality, but now we are also talking significantly about gender equity. So as a fraternity, there has to be a lot of consciousness across different stakeholders who are participants in this entire debate. Like there has been a women chapter from NEDITCO. I had an opportunity to be a part of later part of the last month, and they have spoken, and the government has supported the incubation of skilled workers in the construction industry, the skilled female workers. While we are still talking of the white collar jobs, we are talking about women taking the burden of carrying the masonry on their heads, but we don't see the skilled women in the plumbing jobs or even a part of the entire value chain of construction. So I think the entire fraternity, which includes a multitude of stakeholders, needs to be taken together. That is going to ensure that the perception of the industry in entirety undergoes a change. Unless we look at end to end, it might be difficult to control that perception, which is strongly embedded with the way we are as a culture and as a society. And academia can play a very critical role. We still do not have any dedicated programs or institutes of higher education which are focused on delivering the skill sets which are very direct and relevant for our industry. Some of them have taken some headway, but I think that is also going to be a critical infusion collectively as a fraternity and even as a support from the policy makers or the people creating or bringing the capital in this space.
Of course, the people bringing the capital, of course, would do it. But what also needs to be done is creating more awareness among the businesses per se, that women can also contribute to the profitability. We're all saying that women have certain skill sets which are good for business and which would assist the businesses. Now, how many businesses acknowledge that and implement it? So a lot of businesses today are talking about gender diversity, but is it just a policy, or is it a proper framework across levels?
Ananya, you haven't said anything.
Yeah, meaning I'll just, from my experience, I'll say, like, I come from an understanding on, of course, architecture, engineering, construction. So construction to me is a very intrinsic part of a real estate, meaning you have to eventually get your building approved and you have to make the building on ground. So in my experience, I was just recalling, I haven't yet met any woman project head, who's heading a large project development and taking all the calls on construction. So that role I haven't seen. But having said that, the construction industry is a lot, meaning you're playing with lots of safety, regulations, compliances. So there is, you need to have a good amount of experience. So if people are dropping off at the middle level or not willing to, let's just say, go and, put the hard hat on and get relevant experience on ground, besides, of course, whatever experience you have in your office, you wouldn't be taken seriously. So in order for somebody to, kind of go up to the leadership role, to my mind, has to have good amount of exposure and be able to be taken, be the decision maker. And if you're a decision maker, you need to be informed about lots of things. And the amount of, decisions that are done in the life cycle of a design to the construction are numerous. And therefore, you need to be understanding all aspects of it, at least, in the construction industry, I can say. And another issue that has been there for the women to be there is because it's a very heavy on land acquisitions. Those kind of things have been very, very much male dominated. So when you're dealing with land, liaison, even to my mind, I rarely see a liaison head to be a woman. So in order for anybody to go to a regulatory body and be able to get your approvals in, very rarely you will find a woman doing that. So, there are various different aspects, I think, where, if you want your company to be more inclusive of women, you need to take the risk. The leadership has to take a risk and put a woman in the role and groom them. And then perhaps 10 years, 15 years, you will see women growing up in various different departments, which are yet 100% male dominated.
Oh, very well said. Yeah, they need to be groomed to take on the leadership roles.
Yeah. So
Can I just add here?
If you put a woman in that role, you are taking a bit of a risk. You are ready to take, you're willing to see her fall somewhere, but still give her the support so that tomorrow, next time, she will grow in that role. And, across all various different departments. That's what I feel.
Can I just add over here?
Yes, Binda, you will say something.
I really appreciate what Shweta said in terms of, having a mentor, having a women's being and not seeing women in construction. I just want to share some data. There is a skill program that is run by the government, where Naredco, Credai, everyone are partners. And there was an international competition for masonry and for bricklaying, where the top two people who won that competition were women. And that was that was the international competition that was held in 2019, just before the pandemic hit, and it got delayed. I will add to Ananya and say that, there are women who head projects. In fact, there are developers in Delhi who are actually running an entire business in real estate, and they are women. Some of them had to take up that role because their husbands passed, and they kind of, worked on kind of building that company and recreating it. If you just look at the Cafe Coffee Day story, where we saw a lady coming in after her husband passed away and literally turned around the entire company. So there are these instances, and I think what largely to resonate with the group is that we as leaders and also as voices among the senior leadership in our organizations need to start pushing for, I will not say women, but I would like to say equal opportunity mentorship, and in a way, stopping this entire situation where you differentiate. I would suggest whether it's a man or a woman, both of them are capable. Give the opportunity to both. And I have seen most of the times that women come out stronger because both in terms of the fact that the ability to multitask, the strength to look beyond, and the ability to just get things done. It comes a little more from women in terms of being stronger operationally. And believe me, in our organization, there are women who head projects, right from being responsible for design, liaison, meeting the architects, and to the extent of delivering a project. There are women who kind of do that for us in the organization. Maybe we are distinct, but I know a lot of my friends who also do this in their organization. So there is a change. I will definitely, I'm very positive the next conference that we see in the next 2 years or so, there will be much more women who would come out. And I think this is just the start. It has come to a point where today women are recognized as global thought leaders as well as global change leaders in the international spectrum. And I know it's been tough for a lot of women to get to where they are today. And they have seen it, whether it's the glass wall or it's the differentiation, even in being picked for a particular project, to being
picked for a particular dinner trip because men view it differently. I understand that part, but I'm sure now times are changing because even the leaders who are men today see that they can't keep doing that anymore, and the perception of women has changed in terms of delivery.
Just to add to Benita, there is this thing about the P&L heads, so developers have taken a very different route to heading projects, which is largely on the P&L. And there definitely I find women can take much easier roles, But when it comes to a real construction site, extremely few, meaning I haven't come across, Benita would have, but I haven't come across a construction head on a project who's taking all the calls on store management and signing off on the reinforcements and so on and so forth. So that's a very, very rare thing to find. And to my mind, we should encourage that and improve on that.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Thank you, ladies. Does anybody want to add anything? I will say something. So thank you so much, and this was really a wonderful discussion. So we'll have the coverage happening in the magazine. We'll have it. We'll have the videos online soon. Just give us a day or two. But thank you so much.
I said our pleasure. Thank you for having us, Jayashree, and for following up with us so diligently and keeping us on our toes to ensure we're here. I think you guys do a fab job at everything, man.
Thank you so
great
much.
Panel, great panel, Jayashree. Good job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear audience. Bye. And you have heard them speak bold and empowered. We hope you liked our 3 panels where women from across verticals of real estate spoke on their work and how they have taken leadership roles in their own. Thank you so much.